History interesting, but I'd never really think of it as my own family history.
But is a bigger surprise waiting for the couple?
My biggest fear is that we're cousins.
Find out on Finding Your Roots.
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. Welcome to Finding Your Roots, a journey into the ancestral pasts of some of America's most fascinating figures. In this program, we're exploring the family histories of the actors Kevin Bacon and Kyra Sedgwick. This is the first time we've ever researched the lives of a married couple, two people who also have ancestors who played important roles in the founding of America. To discover Kyra and Kevin's true origins, we've used every tool available. Genealogists help stitch together the past using the paper trail that their ancestors left behind, while geneticists utilize the latest advances in DNA analysis to reveal secrets thousands of years old. This is your book of life.
Okay.
And we've compiled everything that we found into their very own book of life, a record of all of our discoveries.
Well, the story gets more interesting, so I'd like for you to keep reading.
Kevin, who joined us in Los Angeles while donning hair extensions for his latest film role, had no idea that his roots in America ran so deep.
Your family was part of the founding fathers of the most important colony in America at that time, Pennsylvania.
And Kyra, whose family history was passed down to her and her siblings when they were growing up, was amazed at what we unearthed.
Oh my gosh. Really?
Including a secret that links her and Kevin together in the most unexpected way.
I wonder if my family knows this. Maybe they just kept it under wraps.
To our surprise, the stories contained in Kyra and Kevin's past shed new light on the issue of slavery in colonial America. And though their ancestors played a role in this sad history, theirs is ultimately a story about redemption. Kevin Bacon and Kyra Sedgwick are two of the most respected actors in Hollywood, not only because of their accomplished careers, but also because of their unusually long and happy partnership. In Hollywood, where divorce often seems to be a way of life, their 25-year marriage stands out as an extraordinarily rare exception. So I wanted to know what drew them together in the first place. But first, I had to get used to Kevin's unusual appearance. He's cast as a hippie from the 60s in Billy Bob Thornton's latest film.
Do you think that having strong family
Kyra had
ties
told
is
me that she first met Kevin before she was even a teenager.
Do you remember what drew you to each other in the beginning?
What drew me to her was I thought she was hot.
But you met her, she was 12 and you were 19.
Well, no, not the first time I met her. I don't remember that meeting, actually.
You don't?
No.
I had just seen him in a play called Album. He's 7 years older, so I guess he was 19. And I went to this deli afterwards, and I was with my brother, Nico, and he said, "That's the guy from the play." And I said, "Oh, yeah, it is the guy from the play. He was really good." And so he said, "Go up and to him and tell him you thought he was good." And so I did. And he was like, "Thanks, sweetie."
The two wouldn't meet again for another 10 years when two other actors bowed out of the lead roles of the film Lemon Sky, and Kyra and Kevin were cast instead.
I just took one look at her and I was like, okay, I gotta be with this girl.
She apparently felt the same way.
Not right away, no. Took her a while.
I thought he was a little full of himself. He seemed a little cocky.
How long did it take you to meld her down?
You'd have to ask her. Maybe you did ask her. It's like the newlywed game.
Once I got to know him, what takes it to that next level after attraction was that I felt home with him.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Kyra Sedgwick was born in New York City in 1965. She was the daughter of Harry Sedgwick and Patricia Rosenwald. Harry was the privileged son of a prominent New England family, while Patricia was the daughter of prosperous Jewish immigrants.
I was struck by the fact that you come from two totally dissimilar, although very distinguished, lineages. On the one hand, your father is from the ultimate WASP royalty of America,
Right.
the Sedgwicks of Stockbridge. And some people might say, on the other hand, that your mother was also from a kind of royalty, a princess, maybe a Jewish American princess from New York City. Do you describe yourself as Jewish?
I do. I do. Of course, now, I've totally embraced my Jewish side. I believe in a religion where you just do the right thing to do the right thing.
With no reward.
Right, exactly.
But do you think, given that you've been equally shaped by your mother's family and your father's family?
Probably, but I think we're formed mostly by where we grow up and our socioeconomic backgrounds and our families, our immediate families.
Kira's parents' marriage dissolved when she was very young. Though her mother eventually remarried, it was a difficult period in her life.
What are your earliest memories of your family?
I remember my dad left. So much for that. When I see that face, that's what I think of. Yeah.
How old were you when he left?
I think I was between 2 and 3. I don't know. The stories vary.
Kira told us that she bounced aimlessly between private schools until at the age of 12, she discovered a passion for acting. She landed her first television role when she was only 15. Since then, Kira has appeared in hit movies like Born on the 4th of July and Singles. And in 2008, she won the Best Actress Emmy for her leading role in the acclaimed TV drama, The Closer. Acting is also what led her to her leading man, Kevin Bacon.
You know that we're interviewing your husband, Kevin Bacon. Is there anything that you hope to learn about his family tree?
My biggest fear is that we're cousins.
And that it will be illegal?
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, we'll be even, as long as we're not first cousins, it's fine. I know we're not first cousins, but I just think it's just my biggest fear.
Kevin Bacon grew up in Philadelphia, the youngest of 6 kids. He told us that even as a child, he was always in costumes, trying on different roles, acting.
You have quite a few siblings. Was that a good thing or a bad thing growing up?
Good thing, yeah. I loved having a big family. It was awesome.
But you didn't feel starved for the attention of your parents with all that competition with 5 other sibs?
Certainly getting attention is a big part of why you become an actor. And I can absolutely remember as a little kid thinking to myself, if I walk into a room, I want people to look at me.
Right.
And my brothers and sisters were my first audience.
Hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
Kevin's family still plays a big part in his creative endeavors. For the last decade, he and his older brother Michael, a talented composer who is also scoring this series, have been part of a band. The Bacon brothers have recorded 7 albums and regularly tour the country. But Kevin and Michael have been playing music together since they were boys.
I grew up admiring my older brother. He was the first kind of musical influence that I had. I don't really remember there ever being a time when I didn't hear him playing music. He played the cello, the guitar, and played in bands. And, if your older brother has a wicked fastball, you're gonna try to throw a fastball.
I do have a wicked fastball, too.
Oh, really?
I just want to point that out.
But perhaps it was Kevin's father and his professional success that was Kevin's greatest motivation. Edmund Bacon was a famous urban planner known as the father of modern Philadelphia, serving as city planner for over 2 decades. Tell me about your dad. What kind of man was he? Was he warm? Was he distant?
I wouldn't say he was a warm man, no. He was a very larger-than-life figure and was enamored with his own press, good or bad. And for me, it was very influential because I really just, wanted to be more famous than him.
No kidding.
Sure.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
I wanted to kick his ass.
Did you?
I did.
Well, let's see how famous he was. Let's take a look at that.
Yeah, that's pretty famous. I've never been on the cover of Time magazine.
I was going to say, kicked his ass? Excuse
Maybe
me?
not. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. I guess I got to take that back.
I found myself wondering what we would discover about Kira and Kevin's past on their family trees. What secrets would we reveal? What mysteries would we solve? What would we learn about how their ancestors shaped who they are today? Though there were a multitude of stories that we found along their branches, we chose to focus on just a few. Kira's family needed little introduction. The Sedgwicks are one of the most prominent and most chronicled families in all of New England. Since her ancestors arrived here over 3 centuries ago, they played a vital role in the creation of the new republic. The Sedgwicks have been congressmen, senators, elder statesmen, judges, writers, and witnesses to many of the most important events in American history. The family built this stately colonial home in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, over 200 years ago. It stands both as a monument to their family's collective past and acts as a locus for their family gatherings today. Did you go to Stockbridge on weekends?
Yeah, we used to go in the summer and all be together.
What's the old house like?
It's a beautiful, old colonial. It's got lots and lots of rooms, and you can just feel the history walking around. It's got this gigantic, grand staircase in the main house. It's got a wing that's probably used for the servants' quarters, probably back in the day. It reeks of history. It's beautiful.
Did you feel privileged? Like a special kid? Aristocrat?
Kind of, yeah. It was a big deal that, the Sedgwick line. And I think everyone probably has a rich family history. When you go back, it's just, history is fascinating. But I knew so much more about my dad's because it was a celebrated, story.
Kira's ancestors came from England in the year 1636 and quickly established themselves in a colony known as Charlestown in what is now the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, not far from Plymouth Rock. But the Sedgwick name was made famous just 3 generations later by Kira's 4th great-grandfather, a man known as Judge Theodore Sedgwick. It was Judge Sedgwick who built the house in Stockbridge in 1785. What body of water is this?
That's Houstonic.
Kira's father, Harry Sedgwick, graciously gave me a tour of the house, which the family has occupied continuously since the judge built it. This is a serious house. Okay, who's this?
That's the judge. Judge Theodore.
Theodore Sedgwick, himself.
Himself, with the Sedgwick nose. See, look at his nose. Look at Bobo's nose.
Yeah?
I got a little Twinkie. He was a tough fella, as I understand it. A really square-jawed, get the job done.
Well, he looks like a determined man.
Oh, he certainly was. He was tough.
The son of farmers, Theodore was the very first Sedgwick to go to college, attending my alma mater, Yale University, in 1761. Determined to make a name for himself, he moved to Western Massachusetts to establish a law practice.
At that time, the Berkshires were this kind of interesting hollow between the established east of Boston, Philadelphia, and the major cities along the coast, and the pioneers who had at that point gotten out all the way to Ohio.
We sat down with Kira's uncle, John Sedgwick. John helped me understand just who Theodore Sedgwick was.
He had an unbelievably forceful personality. I think he could probably win any case, whether the facts were for him or against him, whether the law was for him or against him. It really didn't matter. The power of his personality was such that, that he would just be able to push through.
By 1773, the Massachusetts colony was boiling over with resentment toward the British Crown. From the streets and taverns to parlors and places of worship, people were calling for revolution. And Theodore Sedgwick was determined to use his influence and intellect to aid the cause.
He believed very much in democracy and that what the English were imposing on the colonists was more of a tyranny.
In January of 1773, Theodore and a group of other prominent men in the Berkshires wrote a manifesto demanding liberation. The document that emerged that night would be known as the Sheffield Resolve, and its central tenet would serve as a roadmap for colonial independence, that all men have a right to happiness, property, and liberty. Just 3 years later, Thomas Jefferson himself would echo Theodore's words in the language of the Declaration of Independence. Theodore's role in the Revolution launched his career as an important American statesman.
I can remember at such a young age, you know, hearing about how great Judge Theodore Sedgwick was, and I was very proud. And...
I mean, people talk about founding fathers. You really descend from a founding father.
Right.
You probably know this family lore. He was elected first to the state legislature, and then to the state senate, and then to the Continental Congress. He was the Speaker of the House. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
He was the man.
Wow.
As fascinating as Kira's family's history is, I was especially excited to delve into Kevin's to see if there was any overlap. The name Kevin Bacon has become a metaphor for human connectedness. Because he has appeared in over 60 films, his prolific career placed him in the center of a pop culture phenomenon. Now, this is a series about connecting people to their lost ancestors, Kevin. So, of course, the word connection comes to everyone's mind when they think of Kevin Bacon. Because you inspired 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, in which supposedly every actor in Hollywood can be linked to you within 6 steps through their film roles. Now, when you first heard about this, did this piss you off, or was this flattering?
Well, no, I wasn't in the headspace to take it as flattery. I kind of felt like it was a joke at my expense, you know. Can you believe that this loser can be connected to, you know, one of the great actors in history, you know, like Olivier or something like that in 6 Degrees. So I didn't look at it as a badge of honor. But it's a beautiful concept, you know, I mean, that we are connected, that, you know, we all essentially, as you know, kind of climbed out of the same swamp. And it's fun to be at the forefront of that idea.
But I wanted to connect Kevin to his earliest ancestors, many more degrees of separation back in time than he could possibly imagine. We were able to trace Kevin's father's line back 12 generations to a Quaker named Henry Comley, a man who was living in Bristol, England in 1663. At that time, Quakers like Henry Comley could be jailed or even beaten simply for holding their own religious meetings or for not attending the Church of England. They were religious radicals who often paid a heavy price for their faith. Naturally, many looked for a way out. Fortunately for Comley and his family, fellow Quaker William Penn was already in America, and he was offering quite a lot of land for sale.
William Penn, proprietary governor of province of Pennsylvania and territories thereunto belonging, at the request of Henry Comley, purchaser of 500 acres, I would grant him take up a lot in the city of Philadelphia.
Your ancestor was given 2 plots of land, 300 acres in Bucks County and 200 acres in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, the city for which your father served as the city planner for all those years.
wow, how did he get 500? I mean, there was that much land to give away. They just were...
They had tens of thousands of acres. The document on the left shows William Penn's seal itself. Now, these are symbolic historic records, Kevin. They represent the first members of your family to own land in America. Your family was part of the founding fathers of the most important colony in America at that time, Pennsylvania.
In a strange kind of way, you know, knowing this kind of brings me closer to that time period.
Absolutely. So you have a reference point now for instead of abstract historical events.
Yeah, that's great.
And they didn't come late. They shaped the history of America from the get-go.
I want to know what happened to 500 acres.
How are family stories passed down? Some are recounted over and over at the dinner table, on holidays, or at family reunions. And there's always one person in most families who becomes the unofficial record keeper, the family historian. I can still remember the day in 1960 when my father showed my brother and me my great-great-grandmother's photograph and obituary from the year 1888. It ignited in me a passion for genealogy, to find out where she had come from and how she and I were connected. What's unusual about the Sedgwicks is that most of what we know about Kira's family, and especially her fourth great-grandfather Theodore, comes directly from books written by generations of Sedgwicks themselves. The walls of the house in Stockbridge are lined with leather-bound volumes. Kira's Uncle John is this generation's storyteller.
You realize, in a family like mine anyway, that the past is not past. The past remains present. In looking at history, you're really looking into yourself, because every bit of history that I have uncovered in my family has some remnant in my own self.
But how reliable are the stories we tell ourselves about our families? As we sifted through Kira's past, we discovered a surprising story. A story about Theodore Sedgwick that's never been part of any written family history. We came to the Massachusetts Historical Society to meet with the head researcher, Peter Drumming. Peter has access to the records of some of the earliest New England families, stretching all the way back to the Mayflower. Peter poured through the stacks, searching for anything new that he could tell us about Theodore or the Sedgwicks. Then, in a folder marked real estate, he found something that surprised even him. Okay, Peter, I got your call. What's up?
This is a bill of sale for a slave in the Theodore Sedgwick papers. Theodore Sedgwick, the outspoken advocate of independence, the author of the Sheffield Resolves, in 1777, during the heart of the Revolution, is buying a slave named Ton from another revolutionary soldier named John Fellows.
Buying the slave to free the slave?
No, buying a slave to act as a servant in his household.
No kidding.
And this is not the first slave that Theodore Sedgwick has owned. In a census from 1771, he's listed as owning a servant for life.
Wow. This is a major, I'm flabbergasted, actually. Because none of the stories of Sedgwick say that he was a slave owner. No. Were you shocked when you found out? I'm stunned, actually.
I honestly thought it must be another Sedgwick, that it must be a coincidence of name, but it's clearly Theodore Sedgwick.
So, in spite of his calls for liberty and freedom that he wrote so eloquently into the Sheffield Resolves, it turns out that Theodore Sedgwick was still practicing his own form of tyranny against another man. Could you turn the page? Would you read what it says?
Know all men by these presents that I, John Fellows of Sheffield, in consideration of the sum of 60 pounds to me in hand well and truly paid by Theodore Sedgwick,
bargain, sell, and convey unto him a Negro woman named Tom, about 30 years old, to have and to hold said Negro woman,
for and during the term of her natural life.
It's a bill of sale dated July 1st, 1777, a year after the Declaration. This document shows that your ancestor bought and owned a slave.
That's so sad.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Though often overlooked, slavery in the North was widespread. In 1755, 1 in 10 adults in Rhode Island was a black slave.
This is a census, a town-by-town census of Massachusetts.
And according to Peter's records, there were over 2,000 slaves in Massachusetts spread throughout the colony.
Braintree, Hull, and Brookline.
Brookline, it's everywhere. And I think people today are not aware of that, not aware of slavery in Massachusetts. And even the people who are aware of slavery in New England, early slavery in New England, don't understand it to be everywhere on the landscape.
For many, even in the North, slavery was a hard habit to break. Around the same time as Kira's fourth great-grandfather, Theodore, was purchasing the slave in Massachusetts, Kevin Bacon's sixth great-grandfather, a man named Samuel Atkinson, was tending his family farm in New Jersey. As a devout Quaker, Samuel found himself struggling with the morality of the institution of slavery itself.
When Quakers arrived in the 1650s, slavery already existed, and Quakers did own slaves in New York and Philadelphia and New Jersey.
We met with Christopher Densmore, the curator of the Friends Historical Library at Swarthmore College, to understand more deeply the Quakers' shifting views about slavery.
By the 1680s, Quakers clearly are unhappy with some of the aspects of slavery, but it really takes them to the 1750s before they come with a clear position that it's not just treatment of slaves, it's not just the African slave trade. It's a system that we can't make better, we can't make humane. It's fundamentally wrong.
Densmore showed us the minutes from Quaker meetings that describe these debates about the issue of slavery and their eventual decision to call for its abolition.
They will include one of the questions that every meeting asks, and that's whether Friends are clear of owning slaves. And the expectation is you're going to be able to answer that yes.
According to Densmore, by 1775, about 10% of Quakers still owned slaves. And Kevin's sixth great-grandfather, Samuel Atkinson, was one of them. This is Samuel Atkinson's will, Kevin, from the year 1775, the year before the War of Independence broke out. Will you read the transcribed part?
I give and bequeath to my son Samuel my mulatto man called Adam. I give and bequeath to my daughter Rebecca my mulatto boy called Lot. I give and bequeath to my daughter Ruth my two mulatto boys called Noah and Andrew.
So your ancestors owned slaves?
It's kind of nauseating.
Did you ever think that your ancestors might have owned slaves?
You know...
Being from the North, you know?
Yeah, well, when we were getting ready to do this, it did cross my mind. It's one of those things that you kind of go, wow, I'd like to think that that didn't happen, but yeah, it did cross my mind.
You surprised?
I'm kind of surprised on the Quaker side, because I didn't really ever think of the Quakers as being slave owners, especially since they were a persecuted people, as we spoke about before, who came over here to escape persecution. There's such a disconnect there between the idea that you're, come to some place so that you can practice religious freedom, and at the same time you think it's okay to own a human being.
But according to his will, Samuel, like so many other Quakers, rethought his position. I desire that all my mulattoes kept to their reading, the will read, and when each of them attain the age of 35 years, that they have their liberty provided. He wants them to learn how to read,
right,
and he wants them to be set free. Kevin, I've seen many wills of slave owners, and most of them did not explicitly instruct their heirs to make sure their slaves continue to be educated. Because remember, throughout many of the slave states in the South, it was explicitly illegal for a black person to learn how to read and write, and for a white person to teach a black person to read and write. And he also wants them to be freed at the age of 35.
Set them free now, dude. What are you waiting for?
But he was clearly concerned about their welfare. Now here I am, a black man defending the slave owner, right? I'm trying to tell you he wasn't as bad as some of these guys.
Right, okay.
By trying to keep them until they're in their 30s, he's very far behind the sentiment of friends. But by offering to free his slaves at all, Atkinson's far in advance of the great bulk of American society. He has done more than most people have done. George Washington will eventually free his slaves by his will when he's dead.
I've often found myself wondering about our founding fathers' attitudes towards slavery. It's difficult for me to understand how those who believe so strongly in personal freedom and liberty for themselves could still deny it so steadfastly from their slaves. When I was a boy growing up in West Virginia, I was never taught that any of our founding fathers actually owned slaves. In fact, as one of only a few black kids in class, I once was told that we wouldn't have been there were it not for these noble white men. I wanted to understand how the issue of Northern slavery was being taught in our high schools today.
All right, class. Today we have a very special guest. This is Henry Louis Gates, Jr.
So I visited a history class at the Cambridge Rindge and Latin High School to see what I'd find. Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. George Washington owned slaves. They're the founding fathers of the greatest country in the world. Should we feel differently about them, knowing that they owned slaves?
Within America, I would say we're very hypocritical. They tell us like the stories of like our founding fathers being like great leaders and doing all these positive things, like being against slavery, but like to now be hit with this, it's like definitely a shocker. We should have known this.
They've been pounded into our heads as like these great people. Yeah, they should be given a lot of credit for stopping it, but like at the same time, they were part of the problem.
Growing up in Haiti, they teach you a lot about the history of America, but I never learned about how founding fathers had slavery. And now when I learned about it, it makes me look at America like differently. It's hypocritical.
It's Nick. Look at Middlesex County, and then look at our own beloved Cambridge. I gave the students a copy of the Massachusetts slave census from the year 1754. It lists the number of slaves in each town in every county in the Commonwealth, even here in Cambridge. I mean, we all know slavery existed in South Carolina, Mississippi, and Virginia, and Alabama. Did it surprise you all when you found out that slavery existed here in New England?
I actually just moved here to Massachusetts. I used to live in Florida. And just living in the South, you always think every slave wanted to come here to be free, to have rights.
I was disappointed to learn that much of this complex history remains untold in our classrooms.
We always learn, oh, it's them. It's just the South. That's where the slavery happened. You know, we're.
But I was impressed with these students' ability to think critically and sensitively about these very complicated matters.
Nobody in history is perfect, and that's not a justification for the content of their character. So yes, Thomas Jefferson owned 30 slaves, but he also laid the groundwork of democracy, which in today's society affects 300 million people daily.
Would you have owned slaves if you'd been wealthy? Sitting around Boston, 1773, you're a rich person?
And white?
Yeah, white, black. Some black people own slaves too.
Since black people weren't thought of as property, I would want to own some property too if it's gonna profit me gain. Even though it's wrong, but at the time in the mindset, who would you be to tell me what to do with my property or how to treat my property? That's was their mindset at the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I learned a lot from these students today. I don't think my generation would have had such a thoughtful discussion. My time with these students made me think about one of our greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln, and the difficult journey he took before he decided to act against slavery. A white man, born in a slave state, who held many of the same racist views as Southerners of the time, but a man whose attitudes evolved, giving life to one of the most powerful documents in our nation's history, the Emancipation Proclamation. I was astonished to learn that almost a century earlier, Theodore Sedgwick had embarked on a similar journey. It was a journey that began one day in 1781 when a black woman, known only as Mum Bet, walked into his law office in Sheffield, Massachusetts. I've long known the name Mum Bet. Hers is a seminal story in African American history. A female slave who demanded her own freedom and hastened the end of slavery in Massachusetts. But I had absolutely no idea that an ancestor of Kira Sedgwick had played any part in this fascinating story. Kira's father, Harry, told me that Mum Bet was very much a part of their family history. Her portrait even hangs in the foyer of the old Stockbridge mansion.
There is Mum Bet in all her glory.
It's amazing to have an image of a black person, a likeness.
She was a very strong woman, at least from everything I can determine. In terms of history, she was a lot more interesting than any of the Sedgwick family, which is fine with us.
The story of Mum Bet comes down to us from Theodore's daughter, Catherine, who wrote about her in 1853. Catherine describes the night that Mum Bet's master's wife threatened to beat another slave, a girl named Lizzie, who many believe was Mum Bet's daughter.
She seized a large iron shovel red hot from cleaning the oven and raised it over the terrified girl. Bet interposed her brawny arm and took the blow. It cut quite across the arm to the bone. But, she would say afterwards, in concluding the story of the frightful scar she carried to her grave, Madam never again laid her hand on Lizzie.
Catherine also tells the story of the day Mum Bet heard a reading of the new Declaration of Independence at the Sheffield Town Hall.
It was soon after the close of the Revolutionary War that she, Bet, chanced at the village meeting house in Sheffield to hear the Declaration of Independence read. She went the next day to the office of Mr. Theodore Sedgwick, then in the beginning of his honorable political career. "Sire," said she, "I heard that paper read yesterday. That says all men are born equal and that every man has a right to freedom. I am not a dumb critter. Won't the law give me my freedom?" Right on. So it was her idea.
It was her idea.
Needless to say, yeah, right, exactly.
But just from hearing the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about chutzpah. That's chutzpah.
And plus, I like the fact that she, even though it says all men, it doesn't say women too, that
That's
she
right.
still included herself in that.
And she said, "I'm not a dumb critter."
That's right, not a dumb critter. Love that.
Despite his close friendship with Mum Bet's owner, John Ashley, Theodore decided to take her case.
He was impressed, I think, with her argument. He had to have been impressed by her personality. And that trial was, in that part of the world, the trial of the century.
Many slaves in Massachusetts had petitioned for their freedom and lost. But Theodore decided to try a novel approach, putting forth an argument that challenged the institution of slavery itself. What's remarkable about the argument that your fourth great-grandfather made is that he didn't look for a loophole or some special circumstance that would oblige Ashley to set her free. Rather, he acted on the assumption that since all men were born free and equal, as stated in the state's brand new constitution, then nobody in Massachusetts could be held in slavery. Nobody.
Wow.
There were very few people in the United States who were making that argument at that time. It was a radical position.
Wow.
A really radical position. There were a lot of people who thought the slaves should be freed, yes, eventually.
Right.
They were called gradual emancipationists.
Right.
But he went for the jugular.
Right.
And he said, if the first is true, then it has to be true for these black people.
Right.
That's a pretty heavy thing.
That is.
And he won.
Amazing.
On August 21st, 1781, After weighing Theodore's persuasive arguments, a jury of 12 local farmers, all white, all male, granted Mum Bet her freedom. The first thing Mum Bet did was to change her name. Now a free woman, she became Elizabeth Freeman and came to work as a paid servant for Theodore in the old house in Stockbridge, helping to raise his 7 children. She holds a special place in their family history. And today, she remains the only non-Sedgwick buried in the family cemetery.
And here is Mumbet. Elizabeth Freeman, known by the name of Mumbet, died December 28th, 1829. Her supposed age was 85 years. She was born a slave and remained a slave for nearly 30 years. She could neither read nor write, but in her own sphere, she had no superior nor equal. She neither wasted time nor property. She never violated a trust, nor failed to perform a duty. Good mother, farewell.
Good mother, farewell.
That's the line that kills me. I mean,
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
For Harry, Kira, and the entire Sedgwick clan, the story of Mumbet has always been a symbol of their family's decency and liberal sensibilities. But now, having learned that Theodore, their patriarch, once owned a slave himself, Mumbet's legacy is also powerfully redemptive. The issue of slavery would bedevil the country for much of the next century as we battled between its obvious immorality and its enormous profitability. It would take nothing short of a civil war to determine the fate of the peculiar institution. By 1865, over 600,000 Americans had been killed, and much of the South lay in ruins. President Lincoln was now turning his attention to healing the nation's wounds when he gave his second inaugural address.
Lincoln's second inaugural, when he talks about slavery, he doesn't talk about it as this thing that those Confederates, our enemies, have been supporting. He talks about this as something that we have done, this shared responsibility. And with that shared responsibility, it's a shared responsibility. If you've all broken something, you've all got some responsibility for help putting it back together.
Kevin Bacon's great-grandmother was a part of this effort to help rebuild the nation. Lydia Atkinson, a Quaker born in 1843, was just 20 years old when she heeded the president's call for service. Deep in the stacks of the Friends Library, Densmore discovered Lydia Atkinson's journals. Inside are vivid accounts of her journey from New Jersey to Washington, where she would start a job as a teacher in a school established to educate newly freed slaves.
Atkinson in the 1860s is following a tradition that has been going for more than 100 years. When Quakers manumitted slaves, there is a concern for what happens to free people. If we dismantle slavery, what happens to that person? Are they simply gonna be unemployed, beg from house to house, and die in a ditch? And so by the 1750s, Quakers are started to become heavily involved with African-American education.
Your great-grandmother was a 21-year-old Quaker from New Jersey, teaching freed slaves in a government camp just as the Civil War ended. Could you turn to page 16? This is a page of the diary of Lydia Atkinson. Isn't that great just to be able to see that?
Yeah.
And we've transcribed it. Would you be kind enough to read that?
Sure. I have over 40 pupils in all, men, women, and children. We had a visitor a few days since, a Southern lady, and I could not help feeling a gratified pride as I remarked her wondering face and heard her expressions of surprise when the little ones pointed out on the map every state from Maine to Texas, repeating accurately and without prompting the capital of each. There's no way I could do that. And when she saw the writing and heard the reading of the different classes, she said she had thought the teaching of such a school would be an unpleasant task, but she believed she would quite enjoy it. Wow, what a thing to choose to do with your life.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, what commitment.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the people uneducated. I mean, they had to learn everything. It took a big commitment.
Yeah.
Your family has come a long way, Kevin, from your 6th great-grandfather, Samuel Atkinson, trying to hold on to those slaves.
Oh, he was a bad egg. I never liked the guy.
But even while Lydia toiled away teaching the freed slaves, the nation still had much work to do. In a chilling passage from her journal, Lydia describes an event that single-handedly changed the nature and pace of Reconstruction in post-Civil War America, one of the darkest days in our nation's history.
April 14th, 1865. Oh God, the blow has come. It seems as though some horrid dream, some frightful nightmare were binding me in chains. But alas, I know this anguish is not the fantasy of sleep. Were to heaven it were. I know that I am waking and our idolized president is dead. Why must this calamity have fallen upon us? And now, in the midst of our rejoicings, to be robbed by the bloody hand of an assassin of our nation's dearest life. Oh God, where is thy mercy? Wow. Wow. What's so crazy about this is that I'm so fascinated by the booths. That's what I've been reading about, you know, constantly. I'm working on a television show about it.
Oh, that's great. Well, you got to do it.
It's just weird.
That's amazing.
And she was, you know, writing about John Wilkes Booth. You know, it's so personal. You know, everybody remembers where they were when Kennedy was killed or 9/11 or, you know, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and we have very few people in our family lines that we could say were eyewitnesses to history.
Yeah.
And she's dealing in a diary, sharing her anguish with God.
Yeah.
You know, this is a letter addressed to God.
Yeah, it's incredible. You know, I like history. I find history interesting, but I'd never really think of it as my own family history. You know, it's like it's other people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's those old people.
Yeah.
So, you know, there she is.
Yeah.
Right where history's happening. It's cool.
We traveled over difficult ground with Kevin and Kira's family stories. But in the process, we've added a new and richer perspective on the history of slavery in the North. Kira and Kevin's family trees abound with stories about their ancestors, but we chose to focus on just a handful. Before I left, I wanted to introduce Kevin to a few more cousins he didn't know that he had. We decided to play our own game of 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon with Kevin Bacon. So let's take a look at that. This is an actual paper trail. Only our game is backed by real genealogical records. There you are at the bottom. And then let's go all the way to the top.
Oh, the King of England.
Edward I, King of England, is your 22nd great-grandfather.
Look at that.
You are descended from royalty.
Wow.
Let's see who you're related to among your contemporaries. How about Hollywood?
Oh.
You and Brad Pitt are 13th cousins twice removed. How about politicians? Let's see who you're related to.
No kidding.
You and President Obama share a common ancestor named Anthony Woolhouse. You are 12th cousins 3 times removed.
I knew I wasn't getting enough respect.
Those are your 6 degrees of separation.
That's great, man.
We had a couple more discoveries to share with Kira. Using traditional genealogy, we were able to trace her father's line back hundreds of years, confirming her Protestant roots all the way to England. There you are. But using DNA analysis, we were able to go even deeper into her past on her mother's line, establishing her Jewish ancestry genetically. Look at that. Now, I know it takes a while to look at.
Okay.
But here's a graph of your 23 chromosomes, and what it says is that 50% of all your genetic material that they examine traces back to Ashkenazi Jews.
See, thank you. I want to be half Jewish.
There you go.
Yes. I'm proud of my Jewish heritage.
I know I had you go in there. You're on the ropes.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
You like
yeah.
being a wasp there for like 5 minutes. Now you're Jew again.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Is the food better?
Yes.
You can have bagels again.
Yes.
I couldn't keep Kira waiting any longer. I needed to reveal the information she'd been waiting for since we started. So we decided that we would play a little game that we call 6 Degrees of Kira Sedgwick.
Okay.
To see who we could connect you to by genealogy. Could you turn a page?
Okay.
Met that guy before?
See, I knew it. 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 Oh my God. Look at how high those pants are.
That is your 9th cousin once removed, and his name is Kevin Bacon.
Sake. Oy, Gavalta Schmalta. I knew it. I'm telling you, I knew this was going to happen. Oy, I'm having a hot flash. Wow.
I asked Kira not to tell Kevin whom I'd be interviewing 2 weeks later, but this was one family secret too good to keep.
Ah, see, I knew this. She told me.
She cheated.
Well, she cheated, yeah.
She couldn't, she was so excited.
This is why we're still married, because you can never tell her to not tell me something. It just won't work. But I will say that I asked her, she wasn't gonna say anything until I asked her, and she was like, I said, so, are we cousins? She was like, I said, all right, spill the beans.
Kira and Kevin's journey into the past has been quite an adventure. Join us next time as we introduce 2 new guests to long-lost ancestors on their family trees in the next episode of Finding Your Roots.
In a church in the 1600s.
I couldn't shed my Jewish identity any more than I could shed being a woman or being Korean.
Muslims and Jews consider themselves cousins. We're all the children of one group of people.
Finding Your Roots.
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. Welcome to Finding Your Roots, a journey into the ancestral pasts of some of America's most fascinating figures. In this episode, we're going to trace the family histories of Pastor Rick Warren, Rabbi Angela Buchdahl, and Sheikh Yasser Qadi, 3 people of different faiths whose family histories have profoundly shaped their religious beliefs. To discover their family's origins, we've used every tool available. Genealogists help stitch together the past using the paper trail their ancestors left behind, while geneticists utilize the latest advances in DNA analysis to reveal secrets thousands of years old.
This, Pastor Rick, is your book of life.
And we've compiled everything we've found into their very own book of life, a record of all of our discoveries.
Wow, interesting. This is really interesting.
That's the Romanian birth certificate of your great-grandfather.
It's great. That is really cool.
While researching Rick, Yasser, and Angela's roots, we unearthed the story about the spiritual foundations of this country. our unrelenting struggle for religious freedom and tolerance, but also the difficulties of holding on to one's faith and still feeling like an authentic American. The origins of our rich and various beliefs in God have fascinated scholars and religious thinkers for millennia. Yet our choice of religions is perhaps most often decided for us by the beliefs that our ancestors embraced. When I was a child, I worshiped at the Walden Methodist Church simply because my mother was raised as a member of her mother's church back in Piedmont, West Virginia, where I grew up. And when I switched churches as a teenager, it was to join the Episcopal Church where my father was a member. Such was the case with Rick, Angela, and Yasser. All three inherited their religious beliefs from at least one of their parents, and for each of them, their faith turned out to be a call to service.
Good morning, Saddleback. This week I learned 2 new terms.
The Reverend Rick Warren, one of the most influential pastors in America, leads the Saddleback Church in Orange County, California.
We often confuse our identity with our defects.
Some 20,000 parishioners attend the Saddleback Church each week, making it one of the largest churches in the United States.
What does it take to change? And we're going to look at the classic passage in the Bible on this.
Pastor Warren is the author of numerous self-help books, including The Purpose-Driven Life, one of the best-selling nonfiction books in the world. He's also acted as a spiritual advisor to powerful business leaders and even heads of state. And in 2009, he gave the invocation at President Barack Obama's historic inauguration. For Rick Warren, the son of a Baptist preacher, the call to embrace the religious life came when he was very young.
I had a spiritual experience. It was a turning point, my conversion.
We caught up with Rick at his Southern California television studio.
And when I was a sophomore in high school, I got a job at a Christian camp in Northern California. And then that night, I was responsible for campfires. And one night, I went into a cabin and I got down on my knees and I prayed really a pretty simple prayer. I go, God, if there is a God, I want to know you. It was really that simple. And I said, I don't understand it all. I don't get it all. But if you're real, make yourself real to me. Jesus Christ, I want to know you. That was really it. And you know what happened, Skip? Nothing. I mean, no thunder, no lightning, no angels came down. No, my hair didn't turn white like Charlton Heston. I didn't get emotional. I didn't cry. It was really pretty a matter-of-fact decision. But that was the turning point in my life. Now,
Rabbi Angela Buchdahl serves as cantor at New York's prestigious Central Synagogue. She's the first Asian American to be invested as a cantor, and the first Asian American to be ordained as a rabbi in all of North America. Angela was born in Seoul, South Korea on July 8, 1972, to a Jewish American Army veteran and a Korean Buddhist mother. Angela told me that as she grew up in Tacoma, Washington, where they had moved when she was 5, she often felt conflicted about her identities as an American, a Korean, and a Jew. Though raised in the Jewish religion, it was during a trip to Israel as a teenager when she was forced to confront the issue of the authenticity of her religious beliefs. How could a person who looked like her, someone demanded, be genuinely Jewish?
I felt so rejected by the larger Jewish community. I'd had a lot of people say to me, "You're not really Jewish." I remember I called my mother from Israel. I couldn't even speak for the first few minutes because I was just weeping so hard. And I said, that's it. I think I'm going to just not be Jewish anymore. I'm going to stop. I don't have a Jewish name. Look at me, I don't have a Jewish face. I could just stop being Jewish and nobody would ever know. And my mother said, is that really possible? And I realized that I couldn't shed my Jewish identity any more than I could shed being a woman or being Korean. It might not be as evident on my face, but it was not just a part of my DNA, but it was the way I looked at the whole world. It was who I was in every fiber of my being. Came back from that summer and I said, I want to be a rabbi.
Last year, Angela made Newsweek's list of the 50 most influential rabbis in America, and she's one of the rising stars in the reform movement.
In our religion, there's no question that there are people whom Allah has blessed.
Sheikh Yasser Qadhi is one of the most influential conservative clerics in American Islam.
The term wali has been loosely translated as a saint.
Drawing a tide of young followers to Orthodox Islam, Yasser strictly adheres to traditional interpretations of the Quran and Islamic law.
And just because somebody is righteous doesn't give him divine powers or divine attributes.
Like most of us, Yasser inherited his faith from his parents.
Allahu Akbar.
But like Angela Buchdahl and Rick Warren, it was Yasser himself who made the decision to make his religious beliefs the center of his professional life.
إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين.
Yasser Qadhi was born in Houston in 1975 to devout Muslim parents who emigrated to America from Pakistan. When Yasser was 5, his father accepted a job in Saudi Arabia. Yasser spent the next 9 years there, attending a Western school. When it came time for college, Yasser's father insisted that he go to an American university to study medicine or chemical engineering. In his second year of study, he had an epiphany.
In my sophomore year, I had this reawakening of spirituality, and I decided that I wanted to become a scholar, a sheikh, an imam.
Was this right before a chemical engineering exam?
Probably, yeah. I don't remember now. And so I remember talking to my dad about that, and wisely at the time, of course, at the time I didn't see it as being very wise. Wisely at the time, he says, "No way, you must be out of your mind. You know, you're going to get your engineering degree. You know." And then he said something that I really admire him for. He said, "And then when you're able to stand on your feet, you make up your own mind. But it's my job to make sure that you're independent." Mm-hmm. And then my university years were my formative years in making me committed to the faith. I was raised a practicing Muslim by my father, but I chose to be a committed Muslim in college.
Why? Most people choose to do dope and sex in college and become, if not atheist, agnostic.
I needed religion to save me from those things because I don't view them as being moral or healthy for the human soul. Mm-hmm. And I felt an emptiness that only religion was able to fill. Mm-hmm. I felt a void in my life that only the worship of God helped me overcome.
I wondered what we could learn about Rick, Angela, and Yasser's life choices by looking into their family trees. Did their ancestors' initial journeys to America help shape their faith in God? And could their family struggles for religious tolerance have influenced their decisions to become spiritual leaders? I started with Pastor Rick, born Richard Dwayne Warren on January 28, 1954, in San Jose, California. Rick's father was a preacher, and his mother worked alongside her husband to build churches across the country. Rick told me that the two of them had a profound impact on his decision to establish his own church.
My dad was an average preacher, but he was an outstanding carpenter. He built.
And Jesus was an average carpenter, an outstanding
Yeah,
carpenter.
that's right. My dad built over 150 churches, literally all around the world.
You mean built like with nails?
Hammered nails. And I mean, he built them up in Alaska. He built them in Guatemala. He built them in China. He built them in all over Asia, Australia. When Saddam kicked the Kurds up into northern Iraq, it was my father who took a crew of 18 guys into those refugee camps and dug the 8 water wells for the refugees and built a church there for them. So he'd built them all. Well, everywhere my dad built, my mom cooked. And so if there was a Katrina, they would be there. If there was a tsunami, they would be there.
That is a neat thing.
A self-described history buff and bibliophile, Rick gave me a tour of his extraordinary library, which holds over 20,000 volumes, as well as historic memorabilia and rare mementos from his family's past.
My dad, I had this little chest mate and put all of his sermons. These are his sermons that he would hand type out.
That's sweet.
Isn't that neat?
Hey, you ever rip off a sermon man from one of these?
Everybody rips off everybody. Okay.
Rick knew that he descended from a long line of deeply religious ancestors. He even gives pride of place in his study to a photograph of his great-grandfather, the Reverend Ebenezer Armstrong. I was struck by how much Rick resembles Pastor Ebenezer. Ebenezer was a Union Army veteran who became a circuit preacher traveling on horseback between rural Baptist churches in the 19th century.
The family lore about this man was that he was a great man, he was a godly man, he was a kind man, and I still have some of his commentaries in my library. Those are all Ebenezer Armstrong's books. Okay?
Well, that means you had a great deal of stability in your
But what Rick didn't know was that his family's commitment to the church actually stretches all the way back to the founding of this country. We discovered that his 9th great-grandfather, a man named William Park, was struggling to worship as a Puritan in Semur, England, in the early 17th century, when he decided to escape persecution by sailing to America in search of religious freedom. William would eventually book passage on a ship called the Lion in the year 1630. Less than a year later, charismatic minister John Eliot would arrive on a subsequent voyage of the same ship. Eliot, one of the original members of the First Church of Roxbury in New England, is credited with printing the first Bible in the New World.
Would you turn the page? This is the membership record for the Church of Roxbury, which was started in the year 1632. And it describes the arrival of your 9th great-grandfather.
Wow.
Did you read what it says up there, brother?
Oh, you're kidding me. The First Church of Roxbury, membership records, William Park. He came to New England in the 12th month, 1630. Hey, we've had family here since 1630.
1630.
Can I get a scholarship somewhere on this or anything? I mean, can I go back to school and, and be like an original guy?
Rick, we don't have white affirmative action anymore.
Oh, okay, well, what can I say?
Rick, could you please turn the page?
All right.
Now, this, my friend, is a history of the First Church in Roxbury, listing the members of the first meeting house established in the year 1632. Do you recognize any names? Could you read them?
Yes, I sure do. Of course, the teacher is Pastor John Eliot, Reverend John Eliot. But down here in the list of deacons, there's my 9th great-grandfather. He's a deacon in a church in America. Yeah, in the 1600s.
Your 9th great-grandfather, William Park, served as the deacon of the Church of Roxbury.
This is great. That is really cool.
And Rick, he served as deacon under John Eliot from its founding in 1632 until at least 1674.
Wow.
How many years is that, Rick?
Wow.
1632, 1674?
That is absolutely amazing.
How many years you been at Saddleback, brother?
Well, yeah, I've been here 31. That's 41.
Right.
42.
So
yeah.
you got to keep working on it.
Yeah.
And your ancestors were right there.
They were
with
buddies.
you. They were buddies, man. They broke bread, they got on their knees together, and they believed in the dream of America.
Unbelievable.
Did you know that you had such deep Protestant roots?
No, I did not. I had no idea. This is what you call having Calvinist props.
It's true. It's true.
Puritan props.
270 years after Pastor Rick's Protestant relatives arrived in this country in search of religious tolerance, Angela Buchdahl's ancestors were thinking about making the same decision. Angela has long known that her family on her father's side hailed from Romania, but she never knew how or why they migrated to America.
Let's find out about these people, your great-grandparents, who came here as immigrants. Could you turn the page?
Yeah. Birth certificate of Stroll Hirschju, born on the 21st of October in Moinești, in his parents' house. Oh.
That's the Romanian birth certificate of your great-grandfather, Stroll Hirsch Sas, born in Moinești, Romania in 1871.
Angela's great-grandfather, Stroll, was born during a time of great trial and tribulation for Jews in Romania. When it became independent from the Ottoman Empire in 1878, Romania initially promised citizenship to its Jewish population. But between 1879 and 1913, only about 2,000 Jews out of a total of some 250,000 could actually call themselves Romanian citizens. The government seemed set on doing all it could to make life as difficult as possible for the Jews. We could tell by the birth certificate of Angela's great-uncle, Itzhak, which listed him as Israelite, that Angela's family was not among the 2,000 Jewish people granted their citizenship. As the 19th century drew to a close and bigots stoked anti-Semitic fervor across Eastern Europe, Jews in Romania remained without a homeland and in grave danger.
In 1882, a new law forced Jews to serve in the military, even though they weren't citizens. Another law prohibited them from peddling, which of course deprived thousands of Jewish families of their livelihood. And Angela, that's not all. Could you turn the page?
Oh my goodness. Oh.
These are newspapers of an anti-Semitic league, and they give you a sense of the popular sentiment afoot in Romania around the turn of the century. Could you read the translations?
Here, rebellious Kikes, Kikes' lamentation, and Romanians buy nothing from Kikes. Wow.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, it's unbelievable.
So in 1899, something called the Romanian Exodus began. Because the Jews could read the paper like everybody else. They say, split time, time to go.
To get out of here.
So a wave of emigration, unparalleled actually in Jewish history, began that year, 1899.
Many Jews in Romania actually fled the country on foot to find freedom, sometimes walking hundreds of miles. These people were known in Yiddish as Fußgängers. We don't know whether or not Angela's great-grandfather and his family were among the Fußgängers, but we do know that they were part of this desperate tide of migration. And as luck would have it, they were able to book passage on a ship headed straight to the United States. I couldn't wait to show Angela where they arrived.
Oh, oh my God! They came to 225 East 40th Street, 15 blocks away from here. That's incredible. That is so funny. I know exactly where that is. It's just...
And you know why they were going there? Because your great-grandfather's older brother, Joseph, had come to America already in the late 1880s, probably to avoid serving in the Romanian army.
Wow, right.
All of us know about the persecution of the Jews. But does knowing about how your family was persecuted affect you in your understanding of your own commitment to religion?
I've always felt that it was important for Judaism to survive, not just because Jews have been persecuted, but because it has so much to offer and is so meaningful and beautiful. But I do have to say, learning about the persecution personally in my own family in this direct way really does give me my own sense of needing to carry this on for what they endured, for it to survive, for it to be passed on to me. It's really very powerful to hear about it in this very personal way.
It is human nature to be suspicious of that which you don't know. It's human nature to be suspicious and stereotypical of a community that is exotic and different, right?
Religious intolerance knows no boundaries. It is, unfortunately, all too universal, cutting across all nations, all time periods, and all faiths.
Your religion is a part of your identity. Right?
Like Rick and Angela, Yasser Qadi's family tree carries with it painful stories of his ancestors' persecution for their religious beliefs. In 1947, Yasser's father, Musar Qazi, was just 10 years old and living in Jabalpur, India. He was the son of Ishaq Qazi, a member of a prominent family that owned a large, comfortable house. But in 1948, Ishaq was forced to pack up his family, including Yasser's dad, and abruptly embark upon a perilous journey. They fled first to Bombay, now Mumbai, and then on to Karachi, heading to the newly partitioned Muslim nation of Pakistan, where they hoped to find the freedom to practice their Islamic religious beliefs and start a new life.
This is an interesting fact. The largest mass migration of humans in the history of humanity occurred in 1947. Over 15 million people migrated cross borders. Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims are all crossing all over. A lot of chaos, a lot of terror, a lot of riots took place. It was a very difficult journey. And my father remembers some of the hardships that he had coming to Karachi.
The period in Indian history known as partition was marred by widespread violence and mayhem, the brutality of neighbor against neighbor. The end of centuries of British colonialism in 1947 led to murderous sectarian violence perpetrated in the name of religious differences. Hindus and Muslims routinely slaughtered each other in the streets. Sometimes entire villages and neighborhoods were wiped out.
They chose to leave because they felt that a new land was being created for them, and they felt a sense of hope, a sense of aspirations that there would be a better future for them in that land. And the sad truth is, I don't know if that dream became a reality for them or not. I don't know. I know for my father it didn't, even though he considers himself fully Pakistani. But for sure for him, that dream that my grandfather and grandmother had was not materialized.
Despite the fact that he was living in Pakistan, a Muslim country, Yasser's father did not see a bright future for himself or his family. So, in 1963, like Angela Buchdahl and Rick Warren's ancestors, Musar decided to migrate to America. He enrolled as a biology student at the University of Houston and discovered that he could practice his faith freely, even as one of only a tiny minority of Muslims living there.
It was a land of opportunity, it was a land of dreams, and my father came here as a single man, as a bachelor at the time, and he liked it so much that he decided to make it his permanent residence. You know, the questions that I always ask him is, how did he practice the faith as pretty much the only, Muslim or, one of two or three people? And he tells me the first Eid prayer that they ever prayed, there was a grand total of 3 people in Houston praying Eid.
What's Eid?
Eid is the annual festival. It's the largest congregation of Muslims that come together.
So this is Christmas and Easter.
Basically, these are Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving, and so everybody comes together. My father he'd never led the prayer in his life, he told me. But when they showed up and they didn't have an imam, obviously, what are you going to do? Well, you just become an imam. That's what America does to you, you know?
44 years after his father had arrived in Houston as only one of a handful of Muslims in the entire area, Yasser returned to Houston to lead the congregation in Eid prayer.
Now here I am, and this is the growth of Islam in America. Here I am, and my father's in the audience, is an elderly man now. Here is his son who's trained as a professional and who's become a scholar in the religion. And instead of 3 people, there's a grand total of 30,000 Muslims.
Oh my God. It had to be one of the proudest days in your father's life to hear you on
I could
that
tell,
day.
yeah.
On
I was humbled too. I was very humbled as well.
سمع الله لمن حمده.
Today, there are over 2.5 million practicing Muslims in America, a roughly 20-fold increase since Yasser's father arrived here in 1963.
Allahu Akbar.
But Muslims like Yasser, and many other people practicing their religious faith in this country, often face a familiar conundrum. How do they hold on to their religion, with all of its customs, traditions, and laws, and still be, as it were, an American?
Would a new citizen, could you please raise your right hand? Please repeat after me. I hereby declare.
2 years ago, I attended a naturalization ceremony in Lower Manhattan. It's a secular baptism of sorts, when immigrants of every faith pledge allegiance to their new home, the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
At this pivotal moment, all religious differences are put aside in the name of membership in a broader, secular community. Regardless of national origin or religion, Muslim, Hindu, or Buddhist, Christian, or Jew, becoming an American is a powerful personal moment.
I welcome you as fellow citizens of the United States of America.
We discovered the naturalization record for Angela's great-grandfather, Shruel Sauce, who felt forced to leave Romania because he was Jewish. This frayed piece of paper is his moving written oath of allegiance to the Republic of the United States of America.
It is my intention to become a citizen of the United States and to renounce absolutely and forever all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, state, or sovereignty, and particularly to Charles, King of Romania, of whom at this time I am subject.
And whom I hate.
That's right. Who wouldn't have me?
Now look at
goodness.
look at when this is declared. This is his intention to naturalize, which he had to file, and it's in 1903. Remember, just a few months after he arrived in America from Romania. He filed actually for citizenship in 1912, 9 years after he first applied.
Wow. This is unbelievable that we have this, that you found it for us.
What do you think your ancestors hoped for when they showed up?
I think they hoped they could be in a place in which they could be freely who they wanted to be, both their religion as well as their ability to have a livelihood and just the ability to raise a family and have a good life. But I think maybe even more than that, an ability to dream, to be able to do something even more.
That dream brought men like Rick Warren's ancestors here over 300 years ago. We discovered a document from 1629 written by John Winthrop, the famous founder of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Winthrop explains why he and his fellow Puritans, including Rick's 9th great-grandfather, William Park, should leave civilized England to move to the wilderness of the New World.
One of them was to raise a bulwark against the kingdom of Antichrist. which the Jesuits labor to raise in all parts of the world. That's hilarious. That is really funny. All other churches of Europe are brought to desolation, and our sins, for which the Lord begins already to frown upon us. And who knows but that God hath provided of this place to be a refuge for many whom he means to save. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
That is amazing. Wow.
Do you think that your ancestors' dream, as Winthrop expressed it in what you just read, has come true?
Well, I think that their desire to build a, quote, Christian utopia has not come true. And I think that's unrealistic. I think God does, as I read Scripture, God doesn't intend for us to have heaven on earth. Mm-hmm. Heaven is heaven and earth is earth. Mm-hmm. But the benefit and the blessing of having that kind of foundation created a nation that is unlike any other in the world, mm-hmm. in terms of the commitment to justice, the commitment to truth, the commitment to love. No nation is as generous as America. Mm-hmm. None. Nobody even comes close.
But despite the high-minded ideals of our founding fathers and mothers, there have been all too many dark hours in our nation's history when we, as Americans, have failed to live up to our original Christian values of religious freedom and tolerance. Rick Warren's paternal third great-grandfather was a Baptist named Bird Griffin, born in Wilkes County, Georgia in 1803. Bird was a justice of the peace, and according to the 1860 census, he was a farmer. But upon closer inspection, we discovered something else. Bird was also a rather prominent slaveholder.
He had a 45-year-old female slave,
mm-hmm.
a 35-year-old and a 30-year-old male slave,
mm-hmm.
a 30-year-old female slave, a 27-year-old male, a 14-year-old male, a 12-year-old female, 10-year-old male, a 9-year-old female, 6, 3, and 1-month-old male. He had a lot of slaves.
If you count them, that's 12 slaves.
12 slaves.
And their color?
Does that mean he was rich, or he...
That's a goodly number of slaves.
Yeah.
Remember, most people in the South didn't own slaves at all.
Uh-huh. Well, this obviously shows why he could be a judge and a planter, because he wasn't doing any of the planting. Okay. So he really was just a judge.
Okay. Got that right.
He had other people doing all the planting.
During the Civil War, men and women across the South used the Bible and their versions of Christianity to support their right to own slaves. They often bolstered their arguments by quoting biblical passages from Leviticus, Corinthians, or Ephesians. Confederate President Jefferson Davis even went so far as to suggest that slavery was decreed as a right by God Almighty himself.
Do you think there was a valid Christian justification of slavery before or during the Civil War?
There is zero biblical justification for slavery. Zero. From the very beginning of time, God says, I have created every man in my image. And I've read those arguments, and they're spurious. They are false exegesis.
Yeah.
They're eisegesis. You're reading into it instead of exegesis, reading out of it what it actually says. And the Bible, like any other book, and people do it with the Constitution, make it mean what they want it to mean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Supreme Court now finds all kinds of things in the Constitution that isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But they try to create something out of it. And so everything we look at, we read with our lenses. And if you were raised with the prejudicial lens, you're gonna read Scripture wrong. In fact, the denomination that my parents grew up in, the Southern Baptist Convention, eventually apologized for their misreading of Scripture.
Yeah, that was about 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was about 10 years ago, but it's like 100 years late.
Right.
Okay, and so sometimes people put off what they should have done a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the value of that is to say we recognize sin as sin, and there's no justification for it.
We don't believe in any man with superhuman powers. A righteous man is not going to snap his fingers and say, this happens, it's going to happen.
Religious texts like historical events, are constantly being reinterpreted. And one of the most important functions of our religious leaders is to act as our guide. But on September 11, 2001, a group of men with their own perverse radical interpretation of their version of their religion perpetrated the largest act of terror on American soil. For Americans of every faith, it was a day that would test our principles of democratic rights and religious tolerance. Across the country, many people turned to God in an attempt to understand this horrible event, while others, unfortunately, sought to lay blame upon an entire faith. For Yasser Qadi, his understanding of what it means to be a Muslim in America would be altered forever after he heard the devastating news while studying Islamic theology as a graduate student in Saudi Arabia.
I was going to the mosque on 9/11, and an American friend who lives a little bit far away was running down towards my mosque, and he's like, Yasser, did you hear what happened? It's like, what happened? He said that there's been an attack on the World Trade Center, and they think it's Muslims who did it. And I remember I just like froze outside the mosque. I had a premonition that this would be bad, but I didn't know how bad it would be. And I had planned to come back to America in the winter break in January. And as the weeks go by, my father keeps on getting more and more insistent, do not come back to America right now. You don't understand what's going on, the paranoia. I'm like, I just want to come visit. I just, I haven't been back for half a year, I mean, we have a newborn. My oldest son, Ammar, was born.
And you're an American. You have an American passport.
Yeah, of course. I was born in America. My wife's American. My kids are American. We're all American, yeah. And my father was like, no, it's not the time right now. You don't understand the paranoia. And I didn't understand the paranoia because I'm still in Medina. I understand the world's changing, but I did not understand the paranoia. And so we actually ended up not returning to visit the family, for that period of time.
When Yasser did return to America the following year, his reception was quite uncomfortable. American attitudes toward Muslims had changed, and changed dramatically.
Multiple times people called me Bin Laden.
They did?
Oh, yeah. And I remember we were in a shopping center once, and somebody just walked straight up to me, like literally face to face. And my wife was next to me, and she was carrying Ammar. And he said, you guys don't belong here. And then he walked away. This was not the America that I remember. This is not the America the way that it should be. It's sad. It really is.
Together, Yasser and I made a pilgrimage to the 9/11 Memorial in Lower Manhattan. It was a haunting experience to walk through the memorial with him, reading the names of the people who perished on that terrible day.
This is an African Muslim name.
Yasser told me that the difficulty he experienced after 9/11 profoundly reshaped his sense of tolerance for the beliefs of people of other faiths, and especially the persecution they've experienced for those beliefs.
Now, Yasser, you made a statement in 2001 questioning whether the Holocaust actually occurred. And people understandably are still disturbed by this. I found it a very offensive statement, actually myself. How do you explain those remarks today?
I, of course, made a mistake. There's no ambiguity about that. I made a clear mistake that only an uneducated novice would make. And I believed propaganda that was given to me. Unfortunately, the climate that I was in at the time was a different climate, and the place that I was in facilitated such stereotyping. And post 9/11, I've learned firsthand what happens when groups stereotype you. And I think that that's also made me more culturally sensitive.
America is one of the most religiously diverse societies in the world. Sometimes interfaith and intercultural marriages force families to choose religious or ethnic identity. And sometimes one cultural heritage is sacrificed. Angela Buchdahl knows this dilemma all too well. She told me she felt that the rich legacies of her Korean cultural heritage were slipping away from her children.
I feel like we know a lot about our Jewish past and our Jewish history and our Jewish family, but I've done a very, very bad job of teaching you about Korean history or Korean family. And we have to do a better job. My children don't really think of themselves as Korean. I remember watching the Olympics and a Korean had won a medal. And my son Eli said, "Look, Mom, a Korean won a medal. You're Korean." And I remember thinking, so are you. But they don't see themselves that way.
No soul power, S-E-O-U-L, not happening? Is this a problem for you or for your mom?
It's interesting. I asked my mom that. I said, I feel like I need to teach them more about being Korean. She said, you do every day. When you are showing them the way that you respect someone who is elderly, when you teach them that striving for the very, very best in everything that they do, she said, those are Korean values. That's part of who you are as a Korean. It doesn't have to be that it's, you know, I feed them Korean food also, and I teach them stories. But really, she said it's really about the way you approach how you live your life. When you teach them that life is not about just being comfortable, but about what you can give back and realizing your potential on earth. She said that's a Korean way of looking at the world.
I mean, your mother is a multicultural saint. My mom, when we had the first baby, she'd be bringing black dolls, Kwanzaa flags, you know.
Angela had absolutely no idea that her Korean roots ran so extraordinarily deep. I was excited to share with her and her family her extensive Korean family tree, stretching back nearly 7 centuries, all the way to the king of one of the longest Confucian dynasties in Korean history.
Well, Angela, your grandfather, as it turns out, came from an impressive lineage. Could you take a look at this? Could you unroll that?
Wow. Wow.
You see what it says there?
Yes. Lee Seung-jae, King Taejo.
Could you turn the page?
Wow. That's King Taejo?
That is not only King Taejo, that is your 20th great-grandfather.
Oh my God. We really are descended from that king. I can't believe that's actually true.
King Taejo lived between 1335 and 1408. He was the founder of the Chosun dynasty, which is the longest Confucian dynasty in Korea, which lasted for 5 centuries. Wow. And that is your 20th great-grandfather.
Wow.
You're a princess. You are a Korean Jewish princess.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy.
As we discovered through the genealogical paper trail, despite their differences of religious faith and national origins, the family histories of all 3 of these religious leaders reflected deep and abiding commitment to spirituality, a courageous determination to practice religious freedom, and a steadfast, unshakable faith in God. But what could we learn if we looked even deeper at their genetic ancestry? How different would these 3 people actually be? I asked Rick, Yasser, and Angela to take a DNA test to find out. They were as curious as I to learn what science could tell us about who they are and where their ancestors came from.
What do you think science can tell us about the nature and origins of man and life?
The more science we understand, the more I'm amazed at God's creation. The more we understand science, the more we realize how everything is finely tuned. It could not be an accident.
I think that as we study DNA, the chromosome structure more, I think that we will be able to tell more about our ancestors, where they came from, ethnicities. I think that that's something we can benefit from science.
I mean, I think ultimately my sense of faith leads me to feeling that we're all, in some ways, really connected to each other, that we're all one people. And we might have ended up in different parts of the world, different colors and with different foods, but in some ways that we're all united in a sense of humanity.
DNA analysis can tell us many things. Where our earliest ancestors originated thousands of years ago, to whom we might be related today, and the percentages of our African, European, and Asian ancestry over the past 500 years. Could you turn the page, please?
All right.
The results of Pastor Rick's DNA yielded few surprises.
100% European.
You're a white man.
Do you still love me?
You won't have to take a pay cut.
100% European.
You're like you're the whitest man we ever no. Could you please turn the page?
But the results of Yasser's DNA spoke volumes about how difficult it is to make distinctions about people ethnically based solely on their religious beliefs. By analyzing tiny mutations that occur in our genomes, scientists can categorize groups of people by the patterns of their ancestors' migrations, first out of Africa and then throughout the world over thousands of years. They call them haplogroups.
Your subgroup J2.
Yasser's paternal haplogroup is known as J2, which is common among people from India. But haplogroup J2 also happens to be associated with another ethnic group known for their propensity to migrate.
And, Yasser, J2 reaches levels of about 20% in Ashkenazi Jews.
Wow. Interesting. Wow.
Are you surprised to learn about the shared ancestry between Muslims and Jews?
Well, in a way, no, because of course Muslims and Jews consider themselves, cousins. Biologically, Arabs and Jews are cousins because they consider themselves to be descendants of Abraham. But I firmly believe that all of humanity indeed goes back, and therefore we are related to everybody somehow. We're all the children, of one species, one group of people.
And the proof is in your genes.
The proof is in the genes, yes.
To underscore this point, our DNA results reveal to Yasser a very unexpected distant Jewish cousin, someone with whom he shared a common ancestor thousands of years ago.
Well, it turns out that you share this maternal haplogroup with one of our other guests in Finding Your Roots. So would you turn the page and see who it is?
Barbara Walters? Of all the people on Earth, I would never have assumed.
You are matrilineal cousins.
Great, I hope she invites me on her show.
Yasser's not the only one of our three religious leaders who can call Barbara Walters a cousin.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
You actually share long bands of identical DNA with Barbara Walters. On 3 of your chromosomes. For each pair, that segment was handed down intact generation after generation. And it means that you probably share a common ancestor on your father's side with Barbara Walters going back about 300 years.
Wow, she's my mishpucha.
Yeah.
My family.
As we can see, DNA can teach us just how very small the world is. No matter what we look like, no matter the name of the God we worship, DNA shows how fundamentally connected and similar all human beings actually are. But in the end, perhaps we are most shaped by the shared experiences of our immediate families and by our community.
A lot of things make us who we are. Experiences, our families, our genes. What's the most important?
I think our families choose the stories that we want to tell about ourselves because that is who we want to be. But those stories that we share, I think more than any DNA or anything else, shape who we are and shape the stories that we want to pass on to our children. I think that's what shapes us.
Join us next time as we introduce new guests to long-lost ancestors on their family trees in the next episode of Finding Your Roots.
From there on, they were on their own.
And discover they have deep roots here in this country.
So they're in America from 1634.
I love America, and I'm glad I've been around here one way or another for a long time.
Finding Your Roots.
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. Welcome to Finding Your Roots, a journey into the ancestral pasts of some of America's most fascinating figures. In this episode, we'll be exploring the family trees of two celebrated actors, Maggie Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr. Like so many Americans, Maggie and Robert's ancestors came from places throughout Europe, but their particular mixtures are remarkably similar. Both have Jewish ancestors from Eastern Europe on one side, and on the other side, non-Jewish ancestors scattered across the Old World. We could trace Maggie and Robert's family lines over centuries, back to English kings and medieval peasants. But all the different branches of their family trees ended up here in America.
No acres, no Negroes, thank the Lord, no horses, and one cattle.
So, he wasn't exactly living up there with the Rockefellers,
Neither of them had any idea how deep their American roots run.
Would you like to meet a few of your cousins?
Okay. Wait, not really my cousins.
These are your cousins.
To discover Maggie and Robert's lost ancestors, we've asked genealogists to follow the paper trail and help us stitch together the past. We've distilled everything we found into a book of life, a record of our discoveries.
This is your book of life.
Wow. So this is the whole other side.
That's right.
Okay.
And when the paper trail runs out, geneticists turn to the latest advances in DNA analysis.
Could you please turn the page?
Oh, come on. That is nuts.
When we interviewed Robert and Maggie, both were expecting their second child. I can't imagine a better time to learn about your ancestors. Ours is a country of immigrants, a patchwork made up of various histories and cultures. All Americans are the descendants of people who came here from somewhere else. The only question is when. Families often have short memories, and few of us are able to trace our ancestry back more than a handful of generations.
Now, Robert, we spoke with your parents, and we got the sense that there wasn't a lot of talk about lineage and family trees and ancestors when you were growing up. Did they tell you anything about your family tree?
I mean, really past great-grandparents, which was also a little bit foggy, not much.
Well, when did you get interested?
I've always kind of been interested. I'd say, hey, where are we from? And I just get very vague answers, which leads me to believe that, you know, both of my parents being kind of counterculture artist types, that was just a very, you know, like who cares sort of deal.
Robert's parents worked in the film industry. His father, Robert Downey Sr., directed avant-garde films. And his mother, Elsie, acted in her husband's projects.
We lived in a loft near Greenwich Village. I knew that we were a little different than my my friends at kindergarten. I'm not saying that my family doesn't have class of a sort, but we're a little more ragamuffin-y, to be honest.
Robert, of course, picked up the family business and went on to become one of the most respected actors in Hollywood, known for his roles in Less Than Zero and Chaplin, as well as in blockbuster franchises such as Sherlock Holmes and the Iron Man series. Maggie Gyllenhaal has also had a diverse movie career. She became an indie sensation after her performance in the film Secretary, and was nominated for an Academy Award for her role in Crazy Heart in 2010. She's also starred in Hollywood hits, such as The Dark Knight. And like Robert, Maggie is the child of filmmakers. Her father is a director, her mother a screenwriter.
My parents weren't, movie stars. They were making small movies, and so it didn't feel like a kind of fantasy of a glamour life. I mean, they both had jobs that seemed like they fed them and excited them.
In addition to their show business childhoods, Maggie and Robert also share a similar patchwork of ethnic roots spread across Europe. When someone asks about your origins, Maggie, where are you from? What do you say?
I say half Swedish and half Russian Jewish.
Which ethnicities do you feel coursing through your veins?
Off the top of my head, Scottish, German. I've heard there's some Irish. I know there's some Eastern European.
Today, both Robert and Maggie are eager to learn about the people who came before them.
I think having a daughter and being pregnant with another daughter, I would like information. And I like the stories and I like the fantasy. I mean, it's interesting, but it holds less appeal to me right now than what is actually true.
So we approached you at the perfect time.
Yeah, I think you have to know about what you came from. That's why I wanted to do this.
I think because it's been on my mind for a while, and I'm interested in all the countries that my ancestors are from, I think it's important to know as much as you can about, where you come from. When you don't ask these questions, you never know what you are.
Since Robert and Maggie both descend from Jewish roots on one side, we started by trying to trace their Jewish ancestors. And we discovered that their ancestors were part of the same massive exodus from Eastern Europe at the turn of the 20th century. First, I wanted to find out what Robert already knew. Do you know anything about where your great-grandparents came from?
I believe it's Eastern Europe.
Okay. Do you have any idea where family lore said they're from?
I would say Russia or Poland.
Russian.
I went to talk with Robert's father at his apartment in Manhattan to find out if he maybe knew something more.
This is right after the army.
It's like James Dean.
Well, everybody that wanted to look like that.
Yeah.
And this was me with one of my kids. I can't tell which one. And that's it.
Great. For somebody not interested in your family tree, you have a lot of family pictures going back a long way. So that's your mom.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea where your grandparents came from?
Just that they were Jewish, and I heard the word Russia.
Could you turn the page, please?
Is that Gussie? Yeah.
That's Joseph and Gussie, your grandparents and Robert's great-grandparents.
Right.
And Gussie was born January 20th, 1872.
Gussie Goldberg, Robert Sr.'s grandmother, landed in New York at the beginning of an enormous wave of Jewish migration to America. She and her family disembarked at Castle Garden, the predecessor to Ellis Island, and immigration officials added their names to a list of new arrivals.
Ship arrival record, Goldberg family, 1892. Gussie Goldberg, 18.
This is a ship registry, and it says that your grandmother Gussie Goldberg, arrived in New York, and she was 18 years old.
She was so tiny, she could have been in somebody's, who knows, suitcase.
Free passage.
Gussie Goldberg, age 18, last residence, Pren.
Pren. You don't know where Pren is, Robert?
I'm sorry.
Let's turn the page. Here it is, buddy.
Lithuania. That is nuts.
Pren today is in Lithuania. But when the Goldbergs left in 1892, it was part of Russia.
Oh.
Just like family legend said. And the population was around 2,500. At the time, about half the population was Jewish.
Wow. Lithuania.
You ever been there?
No.
Would you like to go?
Yeah, now I do. Now I want to go.
According to the ship's arrival record, Gussie came to America with her mother, Ida Goldberg. The two women settled on Manhattan's Lower East Side, where some 135,000 other Eastern European Jews had already put down roots. We asked Jonathan Sarna, an expert in Jewish history at Brandeis University, just what Ida and Gussie would have encountered in the neighborhood they now called home.
Chances are that they lived in a rather poor tenement. There were tremendous housing shortages, and the crowding led to innumerable health problems. Per square mile, more people lived on the Lower East Side than anywhere else on the face of the planet.
In the crush of immigration at the turn of the century, the lives of these new Americans often proceeded without much of a trace. Sometimes the sole record of an immigrant's existence surfaced only when he or she died. We found just such a record for Ida Goldberg, Gussie's mother. Neither Robert nor his father had ever heard of Ida Goldberg. For them, this slip of paper was an introduction to a long-lost family member.
Certificate and record of death, Ida Goldberg, date of death May 18th, 1893. Age in years 45, she was young.
Birthplace, Russia. How long in U.S.? 10 months.
10 months. She made it all that way to gain freedom from the Jews are being persecuted, of course, as always. She gets to the promised land, and 10 months later, tragically, she dies.
Never heard of this.
You are meeting your great-grandmother, Ida Goldberg.
45 years old.
In 1901, the average life expectancy at birth for a woman in New York was 45 years. So while it seems to us that Ida died very young, her lifespan was typical for the time. The given cause of death was phthisis, a 19th century word for tuberculosis. Now here's Ida's death certificate again. Could you please read the highlighted section?
Oh my gosh. Place of death, 68 Mott Street. 68 Mott Street. Isn't that something?
That's the building, 68 Mott Street, today. And it's exactly the same building that stood there in 1892, where Ida lived in the 10 months until her death. This is before and after.
When I was growing up, I just remember being around here.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
About a decade later, at the height of Jewish migration to America, Maggie Gyllenhaal's great-grandfather, Benjamin Silbowitz, stepped off the boat at Ellis Island and settled just blocks from 68 Mott Street. On the Lower East Side, industry was thriving and jobs were plentiful, especially in the garment trade.
Could you turn the page? Your great-granduncle left behind an oral history that tells us about your great-grandfather, Benjamin. Could you please read what it says here?
When Benjamin finally was let out from Ellis Island, he was on his own, in a strange land, strange language, so Benjamin had to swim or sink. He landed a job to cut flowers for ladies' hats, $3 a week. He persevered hard, and after many jobs, he became a cutter in the ladies' garment trade. It sounds like it was really rough.
Benjamin lived through such hardship.
Yeah, I mean, I think he used to make my mom coats out of leftover scraps from where he would work as a cutter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like many of his neighbors on the Lower East Side, Benjamin Silbowitz's journey to New York had been long and arduous. Born in what's now Latvia and was then Russia, Benjamin grew up in a time and place where Jewish ancestry was a distinct disadvantage.
By the end of the 19th century, in Russia, there are lay laws that severely restrict the kinds of occupations Jews can enter, where Jews can live, whether they can get higher education, and so forth.
The Jews weren't allowed to own land in my grandfather's time in Russia.
Maggie's mom, Naomi, remembers her grandfather Benjamin well.
He would tell me stories that they were very badly treated. The young Jewish boys were going to be conscripted into the army, and a couple of them cut off their toes and ran away in the middle of the night and did whatever they could to avoid being in the Tsar's army. They did almost anything.
At the time, Russia was in the midst of a bitter war against the Japanese, a war that fueled a seemingly insatiable demand for soldiers.
Thousands of Jews are conscripted. The Russian army tended to treat soldiers like cannon fodder. And it's no great surprise that somebody would have decided to escape.
Your great-granduncle tells us what happened next, if you please turn the page. Could you read that?
There was a secret way to leave and cross the Russian border into Germany. There were certain agents who operated for money to help these young men who did not serve the Tsar to cross into Germany. From there on, they were on their own.
You ever hear this story? Your family ever talk about?
Benjamin finally made it to America in 1906. After some years living on the Lower East Side, he moved his wife and daughters up to the Bronx, where he opened a small family business.
There was a gas station and a little store on a little corner street. My mother and her sisters pumped gas, and they went to school. They did extremely well. You know, they went on to do these things that I don't think anybody dreamed of.
While very few women had professions at this time, Naomi's mother, Maggie's grandmother, graduated from medical school and became a respected pediatrician. Naomi remembers her mother being on call 18 hours a day alongside her father, who also worked at the hospital.
We're passing the Brooklyn Jewish Hospital, which I think is now just an apartment building, but it was where I was born and where my parents were interns. Being a professional working person and being a mother at that time was really, really difficult.
I think for my grandmother to have come from these immigrant parents from Russia and her father having done what he did, and then to have become a doctor and to have raised my mother, that was an incredible thing to do.
Ruth Silbowitz made remarkable contributions to the field of medicine. She invented a method of testing newborns for birth defects that received national recognition.
This is what I've heard a lot about, you know, this kind of thing. And these women, you know, my grandmother and my aunt, who were professionals and women such a long time ago at such a different time.
Did you ever wonder how the Silbowitz girls got their incredible drive?
I feel like it must have had something to do with their parents. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it's in their blood.
We couldn't trace Maggie or Robert's Jewish ancestors much further than their great-grandparents, which is actually quite common among Eastern European Jewish people. Persecuted for centuries across Europe, Jewish records were often burned in violent pogroms or lost in forced migrations from place to place. However, on the other sides of Maggie and Robert's family trees, the genealogical records are intact and thorough, with a paper trail leading all the way back to the Middle Ages.
This is your family tree, dear. You want to undo that ribbon?
Yeah. So this is my dad's side, or no?
Yeah, this is your dad's side. Okay. Just your father's side.
Okay, wow.
Now look at that.
Oh my God, unbelievable.
We showed Maggie her family tree, which stretches back almost 1,000 years. When we follow these lines into the past, they traveled through many of the most important events in European history. In this case, back to the time of the First Crusade.
Maggie, you descend from Henry, the King of England.
Wow. Henry the First.
Henry the First.
In what
Born
year?
in 1068.
Wow. I don't understand how you know that.
We were able to trace Maggie's bloodline so far back because she descends from nobility, from kings and queens, earls and dukes in England, France, and Sweden. Before the printed word, the aristocracy were often the only people who kept records of their existence in order to establish monarchies and determine inheritance.
The House of Nobility in Stockholm collects the names of all the Swedish nobles.
Outside of Philadelphia, we tracked down a member of the Gyllenhaal family who's done extensive research on the family's noble lines.
Now maybe this is the baronial number.
He also happens to be Maggie's cousin, although they've never met.
For the coat of arms.
We talked to Ed Gyllenhaal and his wife in the Great Room of the Glencairn Museum where he works.
All of the Swedish nobles, whether they live in Sweden or abroad, are listed in the Swedish peerage book. We can see here that Maggie's father, Stephen Gyllenhaal, is listed, as are Maggie and Jake.
And of course, Ed's lineage is not lost on his wife.
You know, I'll tease him about, yes, you think you don't have to clean that up because you're noble. You know, you need the peasantry to take care of these things. So,
I'll take any excuse I can get.
I wonder what Maggie had heard about the origin of her family's nobility.
Did you grow up hearing a lot of stories about your family?
I heard this story that I kind of always thought was sort of a myth about Gyllenhaal, that my great somebody or other on my dad's side studied butterflies, and that he'd made such a beautiful book about butterflies that the King of Sweden sent all of his minions out to find this poor farmer or whatever he was who happened to have made this beautiful book and brought him back to the palace to talk to him and ended up making him some kind of Swedish royalty and putting him up to live in a golden hall, and the Gyllenhaal meant golden hall.
Oh, what a sweet story. You should write that story. It's a total myth.
Here it is.
The real story behind the Gyllenhaal's elevation to nobility isn't quite what Maggie had heard.
We wish, this is Queen Christina speaking.
Ed Gyllenhaal set the record straight for us.
His legitimate descendants, male as well as female, those born as well as unborn. The Gyllenhaals became noble in 1652 when Niels Gunnarsson Hall was knighted by Queen Christina for bravery in the 30 Years' War. And it was the tradition at that time when a soldier was knighted that he could change his name. And so his last name, which had been Hall, was changed to Gyllenhaal, Gyllen meaning golden in Swedish, so Golden Hall.
But Maggie did have one piece of the family legend almost right.
Could you please turn the page? That's your fourth great-grandfather, Leonard Gyllenhaal, and he was born December 3rd, 1752.
Maggie's fourth great-grandfather, Leonard Gyllenhaal, had a particular passion: collecting beetles.
Oh my God, wow.
Leonard's collection of insect species is still used today at the University of Uppsala.
I love how it turned into butterflies. Really, it was beetles.
The myth of your family origins was all true, except it was rearranged.
I had no idea.
I think it's cool.
No, it is.
You know.
It is cool to see it. You know, to have evidence that the things I've heard are true.
Yeah.
Maggie knew something about her noble ancestors from Sweden, and she knew something about her Russian Jewish family lines. But she did not know that she also descends from some of the earliest American immigrants. Through her paternal grandmother, Maggie's family tree stretches back to the Pilgrims of New England.
Now, Maggie, as we've researched your father's family, we discovered a vast number of ancestors, not only in Sweden.
Wow.
Look at that. Can you read that name?
Yeah. With my pregnant belly, too, it's going to be hard. Let's see. John Lothrop.
Have you ever heard of John Lothrop?
No.
Okay. John Lothrop is your 10th great-grandfather, and he was born in England in the year 1584. You know, just think he was alive when Shakespeare was living.
Yeah. Yeah, how interesting.
John Lothrop was a preacher in the Independent Church of London, an underground congregation organized in the early 1600s. At that time, the Church of England, the seat of religious power in the country, controlled all religious practice and allowed no dissenters. To the church, Lothrop and his followers were heretics. And in 1632, Lothrop was arrested and jailed for his beliefs.
Maggie, your ancestor sat in prison for 2 years. He was subjected to intense pressure and interrogation, and yet he never backed down, he never relented, never accepted the Church of England's authority. They finally let him out of the jail. They said, look, you got to get rid of these rebels. Let's round up the congregation and send them to the wilds of Massachusetts.
Must have been pretty bad, though, I think, in England, all these people coming over here for religious freedom. I think you learn about it in 4th grade or whenever it is, and it seems like religious freedom, I mean, that's something we definitely take for granted here.
Unwelcome in England, Lothrop and some of his followers set sail for the New World in 1634. They settled on Cape Cod, where the Lothrop name is still well known today. I visited the town of Barnstable to meet with Helen Tabor, another descendant of John Lothrop. Helen is 90 years old, and she's been fascinated by her ancestor for her entire life.
Reverend John was one of the early founders of the town of Barnstable. This house, where we are now, was built for him.
It's a great house.
I want to show you the real treasure.
Helen showed me one of the community's most prized possessions, kept at the library that was once Reverend Lothrop's home.
This is Reverend John's Bible, which he brought with him to America. You will notice that there are patches on the pages.
Yeah, right there.
The story is, one night when he blew out his candle, a spark burned through several pages.
You can even see one of the holes still there.
That's
right by
true.
chapter
That's
13.
Right. He didn't get to that one.
Yeah.
He patched up the holes and, from memory, wrote the words that had been burned away.
Amazing.
Isn't that wonderful?
It is. What a treasure.
He brought that congregation over here and they flourished. He had the courage of his convictions. He was willing to sacrifice his life.
So John was the man of Barnstable.
He was the man of Barnstable. He certainly was. I would have liked to have known
him. As a direct descendant of John Lothrop, Maggie can trace her roots all the way back to the Pilgrims and to the family lines that would become a significant part of the American establishment.
So they're in America from 1634.
I mean, it's hard to beat that. The Mayflower, 1620. So you're about as American gets. I mean, your ancestors in this branch have been in America since 1630.
That is so interesting because I so don't identify that way. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely, go with the other side.
Yeah.
Like, New York, I don't know, intellectual Jewish culture. I mean, it's never how I identified as like a part of the roots of America. It's never how I never thought of myself that way.
Well, would you like to meet a few of your cousins through the Reverend John Lothrop?
Okay.
Could you please turn the page?
Wait, not really my cousins.
These are your cousins from John Lothrop.
Wow, I'm speechless.
George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yes, wow.
And Ulysses S. Grant. They are all descendants of John Lothrop, too.
Wow. Well, I'm closer to George Bush than Roosevelt.
Yep, you are. But there is one more of your cousins that I would like you to see. Would you please turn the page?
Oh, wow. So sweet.
This is how you're related to Shirley Temple.
Wow.
Shirley Temple is your 9th cousin, twice removed.
My daughter's going to really flip out about that.
It's a very unique lineage. You just have a lot of cousins who are very distinguished from this one branch of John Lothrop.
Right.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, that isn't how I feel.
Yeah.
You know?
For John Lothrop, America was not only a religious haven, it was also a place where his descendants could pursue prosperity, a place where they could flourish. America offered the same refuge for hundreds of thousands of Europeans during this time. Men and women displaced by plague, war, and religious strife, refugees from persecution and poverty. These were the long-ago ancestors that Robert had challenged us to find.
Robert, one of your assistants told us you were really only interested in this if we could take your family back very far, like to the 15th century. Is that true?
Well, not only, but I mean, it would be nice.
Guilty.
Yeah, probably.
Well, I'm going to show you the family tree that we've assembled for you. Pick that up, my brother.
Oh my God, this is large.
Could you unwrap that?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Come on. Call the framer. Wow. Look at that.
This Robert Downey Jr. is your family tree.
Oh boy.
Your mother's line goes back 600 years. Wow. All the way to the 1300s.
Oh, wow. Oh my God, the missus is gonna love this.
I want you to look at the top of the tree. That's your oldest ancestor we were able to identify through a paper trail alone. His name was Rulf Gut.
That is great.
Robert, that is your 16th great-grandfather.
Wow. Rulf.
The oldest ancestor on Robert's family tree, Rudolf Gut, was born in Switzerland during the Middle Ages. We were very lucky to have found a record of him at all, because unlike Maggie's noble forebears, Rudolf was a peasant, and therefore the sort of person who tended to live and die without leaving a written trace. But this was a special case. Switzerland, where Rudolf lived, started preserving church records earlier than most other European countries. So on Rudolf's line, the paper trail continued. We found that 7 generations later, in the early 18th century, many of his descendants were living in what would become Germany. But they didn't stay there for long.
Look at you on the bottom. See, we're just going up your ancestors. Look at where they were born and where they died.
Born Hessen, Germany, Nassau, Prussia, and then Rhineland-Pfalz, Germany, and oh my gosh, Pennsylvania.
You have quite a few ancestors of the same generation who were born in Germany and they died in Pennsylvania.
My gosh.
So, Robert, most of your German ancestors made it here to America well before the American Revolution.
It's wild.
Like thousands of others in the early 1700s, Robert's ancestors fled a region that was coming apart at the seams. The 30 Years' War, one of the longest continuous wars in modern history, started as a conflict between Catholics and Protestants. The war devastated what is now Germany, leaving ruins where towns once stood, and lawlessness in place of order. Where Catholics held power, Protestants found themselves in peril. So fleeing persecution, Robert's Protestant ancestors joined what became an exodus, as entire communities picked up and left the German states behind. Pennsylvania beckoned as a religious and economic haven, mostly courtesy of pamphlets circulated by the colony's founder, William Penn.
William Penn, founding Pennsylvania, promised land and religious freedom to Europeans. and German-speaking immigrants rushed to Philadelphia in the decades before 1776.
Interesting. Interesting.
The promise of America was land. That's why Europeans came. They never could have owned land in Europe. But in America, they could.
That makes sense.
I mean, did you, if I had asked you, when you thought your family first came to the United States, when would you have said?
I'd have thought like mid-19th century or maybe early 19th century, but this is significantly earlier. It's really cool.
In exchange for the promise of a better life, the new Pennsylvania colonists were required to swear allegiance to the British king. But in just a generation, that loyalty to the crown would be profoundly tested.
Could you turn the page?
Sure. Oh, come on. Application for membership to the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. My gosh. Oh, and it was my grandmother who rendered this application.
To be admitted into the DAR, a person has to be certified as a direct descendant of someone who served during the American Revolution. So this application tells us that Robert has a patriot ancestor.
Fay Shoke Ford.
Descendant of?
Tobias Shucker.
Right.
My God.
Your fifth great-grandfather, Tobias, was born in the year 1747 in Pennsylvania.
My gosh.
And he fought in the Revolutionary War.
Good going, Toby.
It also means that you could be a member just by applying the Sons of the American Revolution.
Yes. That's thrilling. That's really, really cool.
Tobias Shucker was Robert's fifth great-grandfather. He joined the Berks County, Pennsylvania militia in 1780 and served as a private, the military's lowest rank.
Let's see what else we can find out about old Tobias. Could you turn the page? We were able to find Tobias in the tax records of Berks County, Pennsylvania. Could you read the transcribed section?
No acres, no Negroes, thank the Lord. No horses, could have done better, and one cattle.
One cow. One cattle.
One cow, indeed.
So, you know, he wasn't exactly living up there with the Rockefellers, you know?
No, these are the people that I was expecting nothing but this.
Yeah.
Yeah, one cow laborers.
Yeah, you got it.
But around Tobias, Pennsylvania was changing. From a place of subsistence farmers who produced only enough for their families to a booming agricultural economy after the Revolutionary War. In the 1800s, Pennsylvania grew more wheat than anywhere else in America, making it the country's breadbasket. And Tobias's fortune changed too. By the time he died, Tobias had gone from owning no land as a younger man to the proud proprietor of 100 acres. A classic American success story. But although he prospered in this country, Tobias never abandoned his German roots.
We found something I'd like to show you.
Great.
Could you please turn the page?
Sure.
This is Tobias's will. Now, Robert, take a close look at that will.
Okay.
Put those reading glasses on. See what you make of it.
Boy, I can barely see it. 1813.
Can you decipher any of the words?
Let's see. Is it in German?
Yep, absolutely right. Even though your fifth great-grandfather, Tobias, was born in America, Tobias still wrote his will in German.
Wow. Okay. Little tradition there.
Yeah. It was a tight-knit German immigrant community. They didn't want to give up their language and their tradition. They didn't want to assimilate.
Tobias was born in America. He went to war for America, and he achieved his success in America. But most likely, he grew up speaking and reading German, and he recorded his final words in his mother tongue. This tension between the new world and the old, between assimilation and ethnic identity, eventually would become one of the hallmarks of American culture, as newcomers created communities that felt to them like home. A generation after Tobias left his will in German, an immigrant ancestor of Maggie's arrived in this country. He too brought with him his own traditions and language. But despite these cultural barriers, he would soon find success.
Could you please turn the page? Swain Nelson, seated in the center with the beard, is your third great-grandfather. Have you ever heard of this guy or any stories about him?
No.
Swain Nelson was born on January 30th, 1828, in the southernmost province of Sweden. At the age of 24, he decided to strike out for America. Could you please turn the page? Now, this is what's called a moving out record, and it's kept by Swain's parish. Could you read the translated section?
Occupation and name, gardener Sven Nilsson, going to North America.
Swain ended up in a town called Defiance, Ohio.
Maggie's third great-grandfather struggled in those early years, poverty-stricken and afflicted with illness. But soon he moved to Chicago, where eventually he established himself as a successful landscape architect. In 1865, he was commissioned to design Lincoln Park, one of Chicago's most beloved public spaces.
That's his plan of Lincoln Park on the right-hand page.
Wow. I've been to Lincoln Park. That's crazy. I had no idea.
But in addition to his career, there was another defining characteristic of Swain's life: his religion. Swain and his family were adherents of a fairly obscure branch of Christianity called Swedenborgianism, the same religion the family had practiced back in Sweden. Swain's grandson, Leonard Gyllenhaal, brought the family religion with him when he moved to Pennsylvania in the 1890s. He helped build a town called Bryn Athyn, just north of Philadelphia. The founders of Bryn Athyn wanted to create an intentional community based on their shared faith. Their descendants live there to this day, and it's where Maggie's father grew up.
You know, my dad, I mean, what I know about it is he grew up in this town in Pennsylvania, Bryn Athyn, where everyone was Swedenborgian. A Christian mystic religion.
You're the first Swedenborgian person, a Swedenborgian descent that I've ever met, I think.
Yeah, I believe you.
Swedenborgianism is based on the teachings of an 18th century Swedish scientist and philosopher named Emanuel Swedenborg. About 8,000 Americans practice the religion today. We talked to Thane Glenn, a professor of theology, about the history of the religion.
Swedenborg himself never intended to start a religious sect. He simply published his theology with the idea that this would bring a new light, a new way of life to Christianity. The heart of his theology is this idea that people of all faiths have pathways to God and to heaven and to a heavenly life. And Swedenborgianism calls us to live lives of service to others.
Maggie's grandparents raised her father, Stephen, as a Swedenborgian, and the family was active in the church in Bryn Athyn.
Right now, we're going by the original Gyllenhaal home.
Maggie's cousin Ed showed us around town.
That's where Maggie's grandfather and my father also grew up.
My dad would tell me stories about, you know, how like nobody had heard the Beatles, and he would like get out of town and get a record and sit around with his friends and listen to this music. You know, it's funny. I think a lot of my feelings about Bryn Athyn come from the fact that my dad kind of ran away from there. Because, you know, my dad really rebelled against it. And so he kind of pushed it out of our life.
When Maggie's father, Stephen, left Bryn Athyn and the Swedenborgian faith, he was rebelling against the beliefs and traditions of generations of his ancestors. But he was also taking part in a vast social upheaval that would ultimately transform American culture. In the 1950s and 60s, the ethnic enclaves that had defined this country for centuries began to splinter. In the process, old world identities began to fade, and people increasingly thought of themselves as Americans above all else. Both Maggie and Robert are a product of this transition. Their parents' generation mixed and intermarried unlike any before, starting new families that created their own identities. But today, thanks to science, we can continue the search for Maggie and Robert's roots, well beyond the end of the paper trail, and back over many thousands of years. Like all my guests, Robert and Maggie took some genetic tests that could expand their knowledge of their ancestral pasts.
Now, you want to take a guess your percentage of Native American, African, and European ancestry?
I'd say 85, 10, and 5, white, black, and native.
Okay, it's a pretty good specific guess. Let's see.
Okay.
Bet you dinner. 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 Mott Street.
Yeah, sure.
Mott Street,
yes,
okay.
exactly. Really? 100%.
Sorry, white man.
Ah, wow.
When you were acting in Tropic Thunder, you were acting.
Yes, I was acting. I mean, that's a pie with no slice missing.
That is a pie with no slice missing.
All right. I have to admit I'm a little bit disappointed because I thought I had some African-American influence in my blood, but I'll take what I can.
Using a different test that can reveal Jewish ancestry, we were able to zero in on one particular aspect of Robert's genome.
Could you turn the page, please?
Sure. Wow.
You are 79.89% European and 20.11% Middle Eastern. And in your case, obviously, the DNA overlaps with your family tree.
Yeah.
And that is the percentage of Jewish ancestry that you have. You are 20% Jewish.
0.11. Wow. That makes sense.
You know, they were...
The part of Robert's DNA that points to Jewish ancestry was passed down through his father, who is half Jewish. On the other hand, Maggie's Jewish ancestry comes from her mother, who is 100% Jewish.
It's great to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
We went back to see Maggie to talk about this part of her genome.
Now, in order to go further using DNA, we tested your mitochondrial DNA, and we traced your mother's 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 line about 35,000 years ago in the Near East. It's a long time ago.
And interesting also because on my mom's side, because they're not the establishment, the paper trail is so much shorter.
Yeah,
So
but the DNA trail...
can go back as far as you can think.
Right, so this is specific to Jewish populations.
The Jewish DNA passed down by Maggie and Robert's ancestors holds a unique wealth of genetic information.
Interesting.
To understand why, we talked to Bennett Greenspan, president of Family Tree DNA.
For the last 1,000, 1,500 years, there's been a lot of cultural pressure within the Jewish community to marry within, especially for the hundreds of years where Jews were living in Europe in the ghettos. The only choice for a Jew to marry was another Jew.
So in effect, extended cousins are marrying extended cousins.
Absolutely.
And they all share a common gene pool.
And they all share a restricted common gene pool going back 600 or 700 years.
Maggie is part of this genetically isolated group of Jewish people. And this portion of her DNA unlocks a window onto truly ancient history. Scientists have concluded that 40% of Eastern European Jews share genetic lineages that reach back 2,000 or 3,000 years, remarkably to just 4 women. Their birthplaces and family names have been lost to time, but their genetic legacy has endured. Today, about 3.5 million Jewish people descend from one of these 4 maternal ancestors. Could Maggie have descended from one of these 4 founding mothers?
Maggie does descend from one of these 4 founding mothers. She has something on the order of 150 exact matches in our system. From a genealogical and genetic standpoint, you kind of hit the jackpot.
We showed your DNA to the geneticists at FamilyTreeDNA.com, and they concurred that you are indeed one of these 40%, descended from just 4 women.
Wow.
This means that you were genetically Jewish all the way back to Judea in the Bible.
So I'm really Jewish.
You are as Jewish as Jewish could get.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I feel Jewish. You know, I feel at least half Jewish. Recently, I went to this great Russian restaurant, and it's just like completely appeals to me. I wanted to eat the red caviar and bellinis, and I just want it, you know? I wonder, is it the culture that I'm responding to? Is it just how I was brought up, or is it something in my genes? You know, I don't know.
What do you think makes us who we are? Environment, genes, nature, nurture?
I think it's both. I really do. I think it's both, but I think we have a lot of responsibility for our children. I mean, I don't think you just go like, that's who she was. Sorry, you know.
No.
I think a lot comes from where you come from, and then I think it's a big job of trying to sort out even a little bit of it.
What is absolutely the most surprising thing that you've learned about your ancestors?
That I have any relation whatsoever to George Bush. Yeah, that's the most surprising.
What have you found the most surprising thing that we've introduced you to today?
Well, I think the very deeply rooted American kind of, lineage is really kind of comforting and cool. I love America, and I'm glad I've been around here one way or another for a long time.
Do you think that what happened on your family tree between 1300 and 1965 somehow is present? Somehow has shaped who you are unwittingly, unknowingly?
Well, yeah, I don't see how it couldn't. I mean, it's nature and nurture, and it's informing you whether you're conscious of it or not, so probably better to be conscious. I just, there's a lot to explore. I feel like as much as today has been a discovery of sorts, it's also an invitation to really begin my own re-education, now with the real information.
Robert Downey Jr., thank you for allowing me to introduce you to your ancestors.
That was awesome. Professor indeed. Very, very well done. Thank you.
The search for Robert and Maggie's ancestral roots took us to Russia, across Europe, and up and down the eastern seaboard. But it kept pulling us back to New York City, the place where so many immigrants have become American. 100 years ago, the newcomers were people like Robert and Maggie's ancestors, Jews from Russia living alongside people from Ireland and Italy. Today, the city streets are full of people from Latin America, Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. The United States admits 1 million legal immigrants each year, a number that is roughly the same as it was in 1906, the year Maggie's great-grandfather got off a boat at Ellis Island. And each of them, every day, contributes something new to what it means to be an American. We've come to the end of our journey through Maggie and Robert's family trees. Join me next time as I explore the fascinating pasts of more guests on the next episode of Finding Your Roots.
$10 minutes মাইনাস হওয়ার পরেও আপনি আজকে একটা ছক্কা মেরে দিয়েছেন।
পরবর্তী চ্যালেঞ্জগুলো থেকে আমি নিজে আরো 10 মিনিট কমিয়ে দেব, কেউ দেখ বা না দেখ, কমিয়ে দিলেই আপনি ভালো করছেন। নিশাত, আপনার খাবার নিয়ে চলে আসুন। হ্যালো জাজেস।
হ্যালো।
ফ্রান্সিয়ার স্যামন উইথ চ্যাট পটেটো পেস্টো সস দিয়েছি, ক্রিমি সস করেছি, আর সটেড ভেজিটেবল দিয়েছি, গার্লিক ব্রেড, সাথে ক্রিমি পর্ন, একটা ক্রিমি পর্ন সস করেছি।
$10 minutes মাইনাস হওয়ার পরেও আপনি আজকে একটা ছক্কা মেরে দিয়েছেন। প্লেটিং দিয়ে শুরু করি। অ্যাবসোলুটলি বিউটিফুল এই প্লেটিংটা। আমি প্রতিটা এলিমেন্ট টেস্ট করে দেখছিলাম। স্যামন ইজ কুকড বিউটিফুলি, কালারটা খুবই সুন্দর, সসটা মজা, আপনার বেসিল যে পেস্তো বানিয়েছেন সেটার টেস্টও অনেক ভালো, অ্যাসপারাগাস কুকড পারফেক্টলি, বেসিল অয়েলটা অ্যাডস আ লট অফ ফ্লেভার। ওভারঅল এই প্লেটে ইটস পারফেকশন।
থ্যাংক ইউ শেফ।
আজকে আমার দুটো ডিশ আই থিঙ্ক 10 on 10।
নিশাত, জি ম্যাম, আজকে যদি বেঁচে যান পরবর্তী চ্যালেঞ্জগুলো থেকে আমি নিজে আরও 10 মিনিট কমিয়ে দেব। কেউ দেখ বা না দেখ, কমিয়ে দিলেই আপনি ভালো করছেন। কমিয়ে দিলে সবসময় যে ভালো নাও করতে পারি। 20 মিনিট কমাই, ছেলে আর মেয়ে, ছেলের জন্য 10, মেয়ের জন্য 10। চমৎকার একটা ডিশ এবং প্রত্যেকটা ইনগ্রেডিয়েন্টসের যে অ্যারোমাটা আমি পাচ্ছি, স্পেশালি স্যালমন ফিশের যে কালারটা থাকে খাওয়ার পর, প্রন গার্লিক ব্রেড, এটার সাথে সসটা দিয়ে যখন আমি খেয়েছি, ইট ওয়াজ সো গুড, ডিলিশিয়াস, অ্যামেজিং। থ্যাংক ইউ। থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাম।
এই যে এতদিন ধরে তুমি পারফর্ম করে আসছো, আজকে হলো বেস্ট আমি প্লেটিং দেখতে পেলাম এবং ফুড টেস্ট। প্রনটা ওভারকুক হয়নি, জুসি ছিল, আবার একেবারে যে আন্ডার সেটা থাকা সেটাও হয়নি, কাঁচাও ছিল না, সব কিছু মিলিয়ে দারুণ, খুব ভালো হয়েছে। একটা প্রফেশনাল যে পার্সন সেই রকম একজন শেফের প্লেটের মতো প্লেট হয়েছে। প্লেটিংটা অনেক ভালো, থ্যাংক ইউ, খাবারটাও অনেক টেস্টি। থ্যাংক ইউ।
This is a fine dining 5,000 টাকার ডিশ। Thank you.
Thank you, Nishat, and congratulations.
হাই হিটে দিব, দেওয়ার পরে মিডিয়াম করে দিয়ে আপনি হাতে এখানে দেখবেন টেম্পারেচারটা ঠিক আছে নাকি, এটা ভালো মতো প্যাড ড্রাই করে নেবেন।
আপনারা সবাই জানেন আজকে আপনাদের রান্নার জন্য সময় দেওয়া হয়েছে 2 ঘন্টা, অর্থাৎ একটা লম্বা সময়, আমি বলবো 2 ঘন্টা। এই সময়ের মধ্যে কুকিং ডান করতে হবে, প্লেটিং, কস্টিং অ্যান্ড কিচেন ক্লিন। আপনাদের সময় শুরু হচ্ছে এখন। পার্টিসিপেন্টস, আর মাত্র 1 ঘন্টা 30 মিনিট বাকি আছে। আজকে যেহেতু আপনারা টপ 10 লড়ছেন, আমরা প্রত্যেকে চাই আপনারা সবাই ভালো পারফরমেন্স দিবেন। বেস্ট অফ লাক।
ডিয়ার মেন্টরস, শুরু হচ্ছে আপনাদের মেন্টরস টাইম আউট। প্রত্যেক পার্টিসিপেন্টসের জন্য আপনারা পাচ্ছেন 2 মিনিট করে।
আগুন দিয়ে পুড়িয়ে দেন, টস করে, আর প্লেটিংটা যেন সুন্দর হয়, এরকম করতে পারেন। তো এটা ঠিক আছে
হাই হিটে দিব, দেওয়ার পরে মিডিয়াম করে দিয়ে আপনি হাতে এখানে এখানে দেখবেন টেম্পারেচারটা ঠিক আছে নাকি, এটা ভালো মতো প্যাড ড্রাই করে নেবেন।
দিস ইজ রেয়ার, মিডিয়াম রেয়ার। আর হচ্ছে আমি মেস পটেটো করেছি, সাথে বেল পেপার ক্রিম।
রেস্টুরেন্টে বসে যদি মেনুতে এই দুটো আইটেম থাকতো, আমি দুটো আইটেম অর্ডার করে দুবার খেতাম।
থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
কুমিল্লার শাফায়াত, আপনার ফুড নিয়ে চলে আসুন।
হ্যালো ডু দিস। বিফ স্টেক করেছি, দিস ইজ রেয়ার, মিডিয়াম রেয়ার। আর হচ্ছে আমি মেস পটেটো করেছি, সাথে বেল পেপার ক্রিম। সাইড ডিশ হিসাবে আমি একটা সালাদ প্রেজেন্ট করেছি, এটা হচ্ছে হ্যান্ডমেড নুডলস অ্যান্ড বাসা ফিশ সালাদ।
প্লেটিংয়ের কথা ছোট্ট করে বলবো, আই লাভ দ্য প্লেটিং, লাভ দ্য প্লে অফ কালার্স। আপনি এটার মধ্যে ভেজিটেবলস, ফিশ, সসের অ্যামাউন্ট যতটুকু দিয়েছেন, আই থিঙ্ক ইটস অ্যাবসোলুটলি পারফেক্ট।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
স্টেকের কুকটা ইউ সেড মিডিয়াম রেয়ার, again this is perfect medium rare. Love the crust, love the color, and আপনি যখন স্টেকটা করছিলেন আই থট ওভার হয়ে যাবে, বিকজ আপনি ঢেকে রেখেছিলেন ফিল্ম র্যাপ দিয়ে, অ্যান্ড আই ওয়াজ থিঙ্কিং যে এটা আমি ধরে দেখেছি, আই নিউ ইট ওয়াজ মিডিয়াম রেয়ার, বাট ইউ নেইলড দ্য স্টেক, ব্রিলিয়েন্ট। ম্যাশ পটেটোটা ইজ ওকে, ম্যাশ পটেটোতে আই উইশ আপনি আরও ক্রিমটার পরিমাণ আরও অনেক কমিয়ে দিতেন, বাটারের পরিমাণটা বাড়িয়ে দিতেন, বাট ম্যাশ পটেটোটা আমি কমপ্লিটলি ওভারলুক করতে পারি বিকজ দ্য স্টেক ইজ ডান সো পারফেক্টলি।
থ্যাংক ইউ।
থ্যাংক ইউ।
শাফায়েত
ম্যাম,
আসলে খুব ভালো হয়েছে, দুটো ডিশই আমার খুব ভালো লেগেছে। আর যা বলার শেফ বলে দিয়েছে, আমি ওগুলো রিপিট করতে চাই না, খুব ভালো হয়েছে। থ্যাংক ইউ।
থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
শাফায়াত,
ম্যাম,
আমার সত্যি মনে হচ্ছে আমি অনেক দিন পর রেস্টুরেন্টে বসে যদি মেনুতে এই দুটো আইটেম থাকতো, আমি দুটো আইটেম অর্ডার করে দুবার খেতাম।
থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
কস্টিং শপার ঠিকভাবে করা, অনেক নিট অ্যান্ড মানে প্রতিটা আইটেম আমি দেখতেছিলাম আপনি আসার আগে, প্রতিটা আইটেম এখানে মেনশন করা আছে। গুড জব অন দ্য কস্টিং, ইউ আর ব্যাক।
থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
কংগ্রাচুলেশন
থ্যাংক ইউ।
শাফায়াত।
খিচুড়ির সাথে কোয়েল পাখি, হ্যাঁ এরকম খিচুড়িও ড্রাই, কোয়েল পাখিটাও ড্রাই। এটা যদি একটা আলাদা পাত্রে একটু ঝোল রাখতে মাখা মাখা হতো, দেন খিচুড়ি দিয়ে মেখে খাওয়া যেত।
বিজ্ঞ বিচারকরা বলে দিয়েছেন আপনার কি কি ভুল ছিল, আমি আর না বলি।
দেখা যাক দিবার কি হয়েছে আজকে। চলে আসুন। দিবা একদম শুরু থেকে মন খারাপ, ওর মুখে কোনো হাসি নেই।
ভুনা খিচুড়ির সাথে কোয়েল পাখি ছিল, এটার ভুনার চেষ্টা করেছি। গাজর দিয়ে, চাল দিয়ে একটা নারিকেলের দুধ মিক্স করে পায়েস করার চেষ্টা করেছি। নারিকেলের দুধের পরিমাণটা অবশিষ্ট কম ছিল আর
ডু ইউ ফিল যে এটা অ্যাপিটাইজিং হয়েছে, দেখতে ভালো লাগছে?
না, বাট আমার কাছে ইনাফ ইনগ্রিডিয়েন্টস ছিল না।
তুমি দুটো ডিম দিয়ে পিঠা বানাতে, এই গাজরের এইটা তো হয়নি কিছু।
আমি যেটা বানাতে চেয়েছিলাম ওটাতে 3টা ডিম লাগতো, এই জন্য ওইটা আমি অল্প বানাতে আমি মানে ডোতে 1টা লাগতো আর ফিলিংয়ে 2টা লাগতো আর কি। ও আচ্ছা, তো আমি করেছি, কিন্তু যখন হয়নি তখন আমি এটা বাদ দিয়ে আবার এটাতে এসেছিলাম।
খিচুড়ি যেহেতু তুমি সার্ভ করেছো, খিচুড়ির সাথে কোয়েল পাখি, হ্যাঁ এরকম খিচুড়িও ড্রাই, কোয়েল পাখিটাও ড্রাই। এটা যদি একটা আলাদা পাত্রে একটু ঝোল রাখতে মাখা মাখা হতো, দেন খিচুড়ি দিয়ে মেখে খাওয়া যেত। অ্যাকচুয়ালি দিবা এই পর্যন্ত যত ভালো ভালো ডিশ আমাদের প্রেজেন্ট করেছে, আজকের ডিশটা সেরকম হয়নি। থ্যাংক ইউ। আরেকজনের বাস্কেট নিয়ে কাজ করেছো।
দিবা গুড ট্রাই। অন্যের বাস্কেটে যা পেয়েছেন, আপনার ভাগ্যে যা ছিল তা দিয়ে ট্রাই করেছেন। বাকি বিজ্ঞ বিচারকরা বলে দিয়েছেন আপনার কি কি ভুল ছিল। আমি আর না বলি। থ্যাংক ইউ।
খিচুড়িটা ড্রাই, বাট আমার কাছে কোয়েলটা অনেক মজা লেগেছে। আমি কোয়েল এমনিও পছন্দ করি। আই ওয়াজ থিঙ্কিং যে আপনি ফ্লেভার্সগুলো আনতে পারবেন নাকি। ইট ইজ অ্যাকচুয়ালি প্রিটি গুড। আলাদা যদি দিতেন তাহলে আলাদা দিলে হয়তো বা আরও ভালো লাগতো। আই উইশ এটা আরেকটু গ্রেভি থাকতো, বাট এমনি কোল কুকড পারফেক্টলি অ্যান্ড টেস্ট অলসো রিয়েলি গুড। আই উড হ্যাভ ডান দ্য প্রেজেন্টেশন ডিফারেন্ট, বাট যা ছিল সেটা দিয়ে প্রেজেন্ট করতে হয়েছে আজকে। আই ক্যান ওভারলুক দ্যাট। এটা আই ক্যান নট ওভারলুক। এটা খেতেও খুব একটা মজা না, অ্যান্ড দেখতে একদমই ভালো হয়নি। আজকে কস্টিং ঠিক আছে, লেটস সি কি হয়। থ্যাংক ইউ।
থ্যাংক ইউ দিবা। এই কোয়েল পাখির মাংসগুলো রেখে দেবেন, আমি আসছি একটু পরে।
Ok, vậy là mình đã dùng xong màu xanh nước biển để tô bức tranh rồi nha. Và bây giờ mình sẽ cất màu xanh nước biển này đi nhá. Và tiếp tục thì mình sẽ dùng làm màu mình sẽ dùng màu xanh lá cây đi. Mình sẽ dùng màu xanh lá cây để tô tiếp bức tranh nhé. Mình sẽ tô màu xanh lá cây vào phần đầu của chú vợ rùa này nha. Ok, và mình vừa dùng xong màu xanh để tô phần đầu của bọ rùa rồi. Và bây giờ mình sẽ tô chấm trên cánh của bên trái nha. Ok, và mình cũng sẽ tô bên cánh phải một cái chấm màu xanh như thế nha. Ok, vậy là mình vừa sử dụng xong màu xanh lá cây để tô bức tranh rồi nha. Và giờ mình sẽ cất màu xanh lá cây này đi. Và tiếp tục thì mình sẽ dùng màu tím để tô bức tranh nhé. Ở đây mình sẽ dùng màu tím để tô bức tranh. Và đây là màu tím mình sử dụng. Trông là